Chapter 1734. Shinjilia's lips tightened. He quickly walked into the elevator and went in first. Which floor? Fong Tong Tong walked in and reached out to press the doorbell. Shinjilia didn't say a word. He pressed the button and went up. His expression didn't look too good. And he didn't say a word. He held Yi Qianqian in his arms and stared at the reflective surface of the elevator door. Yi Qianqian wasn't the only one. Even Fong Tong Tong could tell that the man was a little unhappy. Could it be because of what I said before? Fong Tong Tong felt that it was very possible. She glanced at Shinjilia and felt guilty. Yi Qianqian could clearly sense Fong Tong Tong's expression. She pursed her lips and narrowed her eyes, pretending not to see anything. Ding! The elevator arrived at the station. Shinjilia carried Yi Qianqian out first, and Fong Tong Tong naturally lagged behind. After Yi Qianqian was put down, Shinjilia opened the door, turned on the lights, and walked in. Yi Qianqian turned her head and said, "Come in." Fong Tong Tong stuck out her tongue and quickly caught up to her. She whispered, "Is your boyfriend unhappy?" "Looks like it. He might be in a bad mood." "Why?" "Who knows? It's always like this. It's always strange." Fong Tong Tong looked a little uneasy and said, "It can't be because of me, can it? Does he not welcome me staying at your place? Why don't I find a hotel to sleep in?" Yi Qianqian's expression didn't look too good. She angrily said, "Why would you find a hotel? Just sleep here. He's not such a petty person. There must be something else. It's not because of you. Come in." Fong Tong Tong shook her head. "Forget it. I'd better leave." Fong Tong Tong. Yi Qianqian was furious. She reached out and pulled her in before closing the door. Fong Tong Tong was pulled in. The first thing she did was look for Shinjilia. "Where is he?" Yi Qianqian didn't notice that she was looking for him. She asked, "Are you taking a shower?" "I didn't bring any clothes. Do you have any?" Fong Tong Tong was still wearing her bridesmaid's outfit. It was a pretty little gauze gown with silicone patches underneath. It was a last-minute decision to stay in Kingstown, so there was no change of clothes. "I do, but I've worn them all before. I don't have any new underwear." Yi Qianqian glanced at her. "I can get you a set of pajamas." "It doesn't matter. It's not like I didn't wash it. Just wear it again." "No, I have a boyfriend. You can wear pajamas, but not underwear." Yi Qianqian had always been straightforward, so Fong Tong Tong immediately understood what she meant. She nodded her head and didn't say anything. When Yi Qianqian walked into her room, she immediately saw Shinjilia standing by the window. When Yi Qianqian saw Shinjilia, she couldn't help but feel angry. Yi Qianqian closed the door and walked up to him. She placed her hand on his shoulder and asked, "What's the meaning of this?" "My best friend is staying at our place for a few days. Why are you giving her such a dirty look?" Shinjilia turned around and looked at Yi Qianqian's obviously unhappy face. He pursed his lips and said, "I think that your best friend doesn't know how to conduct herself. How could she just stay at someone else's place like that? Even if you're her best friend, you have no boundaries at all." More importantly, she had pretended not to know anything about what she had said to him in the hotel. This made Shinjilia feel a little disgusted. He was a psychologist, so he could vaguely guess what Fong Tong Tong was thinking. Chapter 1735. Based on normal human psychology, Fong Tong Tong's expression was one of extreme envy toward Yi Qianqian. While she was envious of Yi Qianqian, she also had an indescribable admiration for Shinjilia. Under such circumstances, she had decided to move in at the last minute. How much of it was really just to have fun? Shinjilia didn't want to speculate about others with ill intentions, but based on the current situation, it was difficult for him to have a good impression of Fong Tong Tong. Yi Qianqian didn't know what Shinjilia was thinking. When she heard what he said, she laughed and said, "It's because we have a good relationship. We grew up wearing the same pair of pants. It's not a big deal to just have fun." However, this last-minute decision was indeed a little sudden. "I'll reprimand her later, but since she's already here, we can't just chase her away, can we?" Shinjilia pursed his lips and didn't say a word. Yi Qianqian gently pushed him and said, "No matter what, she's my best friend. You should at least give her some face. It's not good to be a bad person just because you want to be. Xinjilie looked at Yi Qianqian's face and sighed softly. He reached out and touched her cheek. All right then. When can she leave? With her here, we can't have a world of just the two of us. A world of just the two of us? Yi Qianqian used to think that those words were a symbol of happiness. But now that she heard them come out of Xinjilie's mouth, why did they sound so dirty? Her cheeks turned red. She glared at him and said, I knew you weren't such a petty person, so that's what you were worried about. Xinjilie raised his eyebrows slightly and didn't comment. I don't think she'll stay for long. She still has a shop to look after. Her mother won't help her. Don't worry. Xinjilie's heart calmed down. He lowered his head and kissed her lips gently. That's good. Yi Qianqian instinctively turned to look, but Xinjilie immediately hugged her and kissed her lips again, deepening the kiss. It had been a few days. Yi Qianqian had been accompanying Yi Yuyu to her wedding. Li Jinan couldn't see Yi Yuyu, and Xinjilie couldn't see Yi Qianqian either. Only God knew how he had survived the past few days. Now that there was an uninvited guest in the house, he would have to behave himself for a few more days. Yi Qianqian missed him dearly, too. She hugged him and responded gently, but she didn't forget to glance at the door. Yi Qianqian did not close the door. She was afraid that Fang Tongtong would see them. It would be a sin to hurt Fang Tongtong, who was single. Xinjilie immediately saw through her intentions. He turned her around in his arms and pinned her down on the bed. Yi Qianqian resisted and pushed him away. Qianqian, aren't you looking for clothes for me? Haven't you found it yet? Fang Tongtong's loud voice could be heard, and it was getting closer and closer. Yi Qianqian struggled even harder, and Xinjilie released her. Yi Qianqian immediately wiped her mouth and shouted, I'm coming! Fang Tongtong walked in and immediately saw Xinjilie standing by the bed. His clothes were a little disheveled. Yi Qianqian, on the other hand, was rummaging through her wardrobe. After searching for something, she said, There's a new one. I haven't worn this before. As he spoke, he stuffed it into Fang Tongtong's hand and slowly pushed her out. Chapter 1736. Bah! What can I do? You're the only one who's full of drama. Yi Qianqian pushed her away and said in a low voice, Don't come into our room for no reason in the future. He doesn't like it. Fang Tongtong understood, but she was still a little unhappy. She said, Isn't this your apartment? Your boyfriend is only staying here temporarily, right? What do you mean mine or his? We live together, so it's ours. Yi Qianqian disagreed. His car is still his. I'm still sitting in it. How can that be the same? It's basic for a man to have a car and a house. Your boyfriend doesn't have a house and is still living here. I want to go in, but you don't let me. Why? Fang Tongtong's voice wasn't loud. Only Yi Qianqian and Fang Tongtong could hear her. Don't tell me you're planning to use this as a marital home? That won't do. I'll be the first to disagree. Aya, that's impossible. I don't want to get married yet. What's the rush? Aren't you going to take a shower? Hurry up. Fang Tongtong clutched the underwear in her hand and asked, Where are my pajamas? I don't have any. Wait here. Yi Qianqian turned around and dashed into the room. He rummaged through the wardrobe and took out a set of pajamas that she didn't usually wear and said, Here. So ugly. Did you buy it? The aesthetics of a straight man. Old Shin bought it. I don't really wear it, so you can put up with it for now. Tomorrow after work, we'll go shopping and buy a few more sets. All right then. That's the aesthetic of a straight man. Fang Tongtong took it and quickly entered the bathroom. However, he held the pajamas that Yi Qianqian had just handed to him with both hands and compared them in the mirror. Seemed not bad. Yi Qianqian finally finished serving Fang Tongtong and returned to her room to remove her makeup. Xinjilie was sitting on the edge of the bed with a cell phone in his hand. It looked like he was chatting on WeChat. Yi Qianqian glanced at him and casually asked, Are you busy at work? More or less. Xinjilie looked down at his phone and typed, Still working? No, I'm chatting with Luo Ran. Xinjilie switched off the screen. Is she taking a shower? Yes. I'll go pack up the gym equipment. You can ask her to sleep there later. Shinjilia stood up and went to his room. Ever since Shinjilia and Yi Qianqian shared the same room, Shinjilia had converted the guest bedroom into a mini gym. The tools were a little crude, but they had everything a man needed to train his muscles. There were still a lot of things. When Shinjilia walked in and picked up his phone again, he saw that Luo Ran had replied to a few voice messages. Luo Ran's voice came through. I think you're thinking too much. If you don't like that girl, just stay away from her. But she's your girlfriend's best friend, so don't make things too awkward. Besides, isn't this a good thing for you? You can show off your skills in front of your best friend. Didn't you say that your girlfriend didn't want to marry you? Have you heard of this saying? If you want to settle a woman, you have to settle her best friend first. Look, once your best friend is settled, all you have to do is get some air and everything will be settled. You're so wary of a girl and you're still acting like a bad guy. Who wouldn't have a problem with that? You can't play like this. No matter what, you should build a good relationship with her. Chapter 1737. Luo Ran sent a series of voice messages, and Shinjilia felt that it made sense. When it came to this matter, Luo Ran was the expert. In the capital, Luo Ran was also a well-known relationship expert and friend of women. After thinking about it, Shinjilia replied, Well, it takes two hands to clap. Luo Ran replied, Isn't it over? If you serve the girl well, are you afraid that you can't handle your girlfriend? Shinjilia was convinced. At that moment, he felt that he was a little paranoid. He sent Luo Ran a goodbye message and began to exercise. These sports equipment were added during the time that Shinjilia moved in. It wasn't a lot, but it wasn't a small amount either. After moving for about 10 minutes, he finally emptied the space near the bed. Qianqian, you can put the quilt that you washed previously. It's done, Shinjilia said. At the same time, he heard the bathroom door open. Fang Tongtong's wet hair draped over her shoulders. Her thin pajamas were soaked, and Shinjilia could vaguely see something that he shouldn't have seen. Shinjilia was shocked. He immediately looked away and turned to enter his room. When he turned his head, he realized that she was wearing the pajamas that he had bought for Yi Qianqian. The silk pajamas were expensive. Moreover, the pajamas were chosen by his grandmother. Shinjilia had bought them after she sent him a picture. Why was Fang Tongtong wearing them now? Shinjilia frowned and couldn't help but turn his head to take another look. The light green silk pajamas had been left there for a while, and there were some creases on them. It was the set that his grandmother had chosen. Yi Qianqian saw it and tugged at Shinjilia. What are you looking at? When Fang Tongtong heard that, she also turned her head to look. Yi Qianqian saw the look on her face and said, Don't you know how to dry your hair? Here. She threw a dry towel at Fang Tongtong. Fang Tongtong took the towel and put it on her head. Shinjilia's lips tightened. He turned around and didn't say anything. After flipping through his clothes, Shinjilia quickly entered the bathroom. However, Fang Tongtong's clothes were hung in the place where they used to hang their clean clothes, and the dirty clothes basket was empty. Shinjilia's expression darkened. He picked up her clothes and threw them into the dirty clothes basket. But just as she picked up a dress, a strapless bra fell out. Looking at the cup size, it was a little bigger than Yi Qianqian's. No, double? Twice. Shinjilia stared at it blankly for a moment before using the dress as a cushion to toss it into the laundry basket. But halfway through, he changed his mind and threw it into the wash basin. The sound of running water could be heard from the bathroom. When Yi Qianqian heard it, she glared at Fang Tongtong and asked, Are you still wet? You didn't use a towel? No, I don't know which one is yours, so I didn't use it. Fang Tongtong appeared to be in a good mood. As she dried her hair, she said, But your house is pretty clean. I thought you'd make a mess out of it. Old Shin took care of it. Yi Qianqian was in a good mood. She replied, I'm getting lazier and lazier. Old Shin loves cleanliness. When he's free, he cleans up the room and cooks. Damn, you're too lucky. How did you manage to make him so obedient? The corners of Yi Qianqian's lips turned up. She couldn't hide the smile on her face as she said, Perhaps he really likes me. Chapter 1738. Enchanting knew that Fong Tong Tong would say that. Ever since they got to know each other, Fong Tong Tong seemed to be envious of her. Everyone had their vanity, especially in front of their best friend. Fong Tong Tong had very high standards. Enchanting was extremely pleased to receive such affirmation from her. The corners of his lips curled up as he said happily, "You can also find a man who can give you happiness." Sigh. Fong Tong Tong sighed. How can I be so lucky? Outstanding and devoted men are as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns these days. It's really not that easy to find one. You're lucky to have met old Shin. Someone like me might have to stay single for the rest of my life. Of course not. Don't be so pessimistic. It's fine as long as it's fated. Fong Tong Tong sniffled. With an aggrieved look on her face, she said, I think I might really have to. People like me aren't good-looking, have high standards, and are incapable. You, Qianqian, sometimes I really envy you. You're pretty and capable. You're able to establish yourself in Kingstown and have a good income. You're amazing. Bah, you just haven't tried it yet. You can try it too. Yi Qianqian had always felt that it was a waste of Fong Tong Tong's talent to hide in the tiny Yun town. When Fong Tong Tong heard that, she smirked. Am I right? You think so too? Pretend I didn't say anything. Ha ha ha. But you really look like your sister. That Xia Yilin has been bad-mouthing you all day in town, saying that you're half-hearted and brought back so many men. It was only when your sister got married that she found out that the people she saw were actually your sister and brother-in-law. I'm dying of laughter. What a slap in the face. So, she really did see it. It's just that the person who saw it wasn't me. I get it. Aha. This rumor-mongering mouth should be punished. By the way, are you and your boyfriend going to work tomorrow? Where am I going to play alone? Are there any fun places in Kingstown? Oh, Yi Qianqian blinked her eyes. Didn't you want to come to Kingstown to play? I've already prepared a strategy for you. When do you get off work? 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Where's Shin? His working hours are more flexible. I don't know when he gets off work. Anyway, I can have dinner at home every day. Old Shin even knows how to cook. Wow, you're so lucky. Fong Tong Tong's face was full of envy, jealousy, and hatred. This won't do. I must try old Shin's cooking tomorrow. Then I'll go play by myself tomorrow. When you get off work, let's go shopping after dinner. Okay? Okay, sure. You sleep first. I'm gonna take a shower. Yes, go ahead. Fong Tong Tong waved her hand and smiled like a blooming flower. After Yi Qianqian left, Fong Tong Tong turned around and looked at the large mirror that Shinjilia used when he worked out. His face was fair and tender with some baby fat. He looked younger than his actual age. Unlike Yi Qianqian's delicate features, she had a round and chubby baby face. Actually, he wasn't that bad looking. Why was her luck so good? But she was... Fong Tong Tong had always felt that God was unfair. They were both hard-working, and she was obviously younger and more promising. However, the adults in town had never praised her. Fong Tong Tong's heart sank bit by bit. She was in low spirits. She looked at the decorations around her. They were very masculine, and her heartbeat inexplicably quickened. Chapter 1739. Bah! This was Yi Qianqian's boyfriend. No matter what, she couldn't steal her best friend's boyfriend. Fong Tong Tong slapped her face and shook her head forcefully. She took a deep breath and muttered to herself, Wake up! You can play by yourself tomorrow. Go to sleep. With that, Fong Tong Tong wrapped herself in the blanket and lay down. However, she couldn't help but open her eyes and look at her surroundings. It was a dark environment, and the surroundings were filled with heavy fitness equipment. Only a real man would truly like these cold and heavy things. She didn't expect Shinjilia to be so manly despite his skinny appearance. Indeed, one couldn't judge a man by his appearance. Fong Tong Tong closed her eyes, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. After Yi Qianqian finished showering, she returned to her room. Shinjilia was sitting in front of the computer with a large stack of documents. It looked like he was looking at medical records. Enchanting walked over while drying her hair. She sat down on the bed and looked at the computer. Are you still busy? Shinjilia turned around and looked at Enchanting. He looked unhappy and said, Why did you give that set of pajamas to your best friend? Enchanting was stunned for a moment and said, Because she didn't bring any clothes. Out of all my clothes, that was the only set that I wore less, so that was picked out by my grandmother. No matter what, you shouldn't have given it to someone else to wear. Enchanting frowned and was a little unhappy. Isn't it just a set of pajamas? Why are you so stingy? Shinjilia's expression darkened. He said, This set of pajamas has a different meaning. It's the first gift my grandmother gave you. No matter how much you dislike it, it's your business to keep it as a secret. But you gave it away just like that. If my grandmother found out, do you know what she would think? His words were so serious that Yi Chanqian's expression darkened. She stopped drying her hair and said, She's my best friend. She's my best friend since I was young. When I was at my poorest in school, if it weren't for her, I wouldn't have been able to attend university. I only had a set of pajamas and I let her wear it. I didn't say I was giving it to her. At most, I'll buy her a set tomorrow. I'll take it home to wash and put it back. Shinjilia's expression softened a little. He looked at Yi Chanqian and said, I'll bring it back tomorrow. I don't like it when someone else wears that outfit. Yi Chanqian pouted and muttered, You're so petty. This isn't a matter of being stingy. I think it's a matter of principle. Yi Chanqian, this isn't just a matter of pajamas. Shinjilia's tone was a little heavy. He looked at Yi Chanqian with disappointment. She placed her hands on her hips and retorted, What kind of problem is that? It's just a small matter. You're a man. Why are you being so calculative? I already said that I'll get it back. What else do you want? These are the pajamas I gave you. You can give them away, but what about next time? Shinjilia gritted his teeth in anger. If she asks for something else next time, can you deliver it to her? Chapter 1740. Shinjilia found it a little ridiculous and laughed. She didn't take any credit for the fact that I'm with you. Yi Chanqian was exasperated. She flung her hair towel and said, You don't understand at all. Do you know why she's my best friend? Shinjilia raised his eyebrows and looked eager to hear more. When I was a freshman, my grandmother was in poor health. My father and grandfather took out all their savings to treat her. At that time, we had nothing at home. Half a semester had passed, and my father couldn't afford to pay for my living expenses. It was Fong Tong Tong who provided for me. Shinjilia was silent. At that time, I couldn't even afford to eat. I had to work part-time while attending school. I had to send some of the money back home. At that time, I was so hungry that I developed stomach problems. I couldn't take it anymore and almost dropped out of school. It was Tong Tong who gave me $200 to eat properly. In the second semester, she even lent me the money she earned from her part-time job to pay for my tuition. Yi Chanqian felt a little sad when she said that. She looked at Shinjilia and continued, If it weren't for Tong Tong, I would have dropped out of school. If I had dropped out of school, I wouldn't have found a job in Oya right after graduation. I wouldn't have met Lily, and I wouldn't have met you. So, it's all thanks to Tong Tong that we're together now. Shinjilia was even more silent after listening to this series of karma. When Yi Chanqian saw his reaction, she continued, Tong Tong is really good to me. I've always treated her as my best friend. All these years, she's been at home, and we've been apart more than together. I haven't had the chance to repay her. It's just a pair of pajamas. Don't be angry, okay? Shinjilia couldn't get angry even if he wanted to. He looked at Yi Chanqian and pursed his lips. When you went to Venice, you brought a bunch of gifts for her, right? Yeah. Actually, I wanted to ask her to go with me on the trip to Venice. I didn't expect that I'd sprain my ankle, so I couldn't go. The ticket expired. Then why didn't she come to visit you when you injured your ankle? She was busy at the shop. How could she have the time to visit me? I told her not to. So, she's not busy now? Yi Chanqian immediately shut her mouth and was speechless. Shinjilia sighed helplessly. I've never believed in such things. What? Fate. This is fate. Even if Fong Tong Tong didn't help you back then, I believe that we would have met in other ways. But that's how things are now. Do you dare to say that this isn't Tong Tong's credit? This is fate. This is fate. There's no such thing as a credit to anyone. Shinjilia didn't think much of it. Everything that happens is destined. Don't dwell too much on the past. People change. She looked at Shinjilia and said angrily, "Forget it. I'm going to blow dry my hair. I can't be bothered to talk to you." Shinjilia didn't say another word. He turned off the computer and crawled under the covers. When Yi Qianqian came in, he hugged her. When Yi Qianqian felt his arms around her, she knew that he was up to no good again. He twisted his body and said softly, "There's someone else here. Don't mess around." Shinjilia closed his eyes and wrapped his legs around her. Sleep. Yi Qianqian was exhausted and soon fell asleep. Chapter 1741. The next day, Yi Qianqian returned home after a day of work, but old Shun was not home. Fong Tong Tong was not home either. Yi Qianqian raced against time to finish her work, only to come home to an empty house. She called Shinjilia. The moment the call connected, she heard voices coming from the other end of the line. "Hello? You're not back yet?" Yi Qianqian's voice carried a hint of coquettishness. "I thought I could have dinner when I got back." "Yeah, I have to work overtime today. There's a patient who isn't in good condition. I'm a little busy, so I forgot to tell you. Go out with your bestie to eat." "Oh, okay. Take care and come back early." "Okay." Yi Qianqian hung up the phone and called Fong Tong Tong. Fong Tong Tong was sitting leisurely in a cafe. When she received Yi Qianqian's call, she slowly picked it up. "Hi, Qianqian. Where are you?" "I'm at home. Where are you?" "Old Shun is working overtime today, so he's not home. I haven't eaten yet." "I'm at Xingye Square. Come over. Let's go have hot pot." "Hot pot? It's such a hot day. It's my treat. I'll be right there." Fong Tong Tong smiled and hung up the phone. She continued to browse the web on her phone. It was a guide to a short-term trip to Kingstown. Yi Qianqian and Fong Tong Tong had hot pot together. After that, they went shopping and bought a lot of clothes. In addition to all kinds of clothes, there were also pajamas. They didn't return home until after 10 p.m. Shinjilia was reading some documents on the sofa in his pajamas. When he saw them return, he only glanced at them before he lowered his head and asked, "Have you eaten?" "Yes, we went to buy a lot of clothes." Yi Qianqian waved the shopping bag in her hand. "What did you eat tonight?" "I haven't eaten yet. Go take a shower. I'm a little busy." Shinjilia looked at the documents with a frown. "There have been a lot of women committing suicide recently. What's going on?" Fong Tong Tong was a little curious. She placed the shopping bag on the sofa and sat down to look at Shinjilia. Yi Qianqian glanced at him. After she closed the door, she asked, "How busy are you? You haven't eaten yet. Let me cook you a bowl of noodles." "Okay, don't put cilantro in it." Yi Qianqian pursed her lips and headed into the kitchen. Fong Tong Tong asked curiously, "What did you mean by committing suicide?" "Oh, it's like this. This female patient is an elite returnee. She's an executive of a large company. She was pursued by a man during a business meeting. After the two of them fell in love, the man's wife suddenly appeared and beat her up. She called her a mistress and even scratched her car. She wrote a lot of nasty words on it. Oh, and then Fong Tong Tong was obsessed with all kinds of gossip. She rested her chin on her hands and looked at Shinjilia seriously. Then the woman went to the man to settle the score. When she was with the man, she didn't know that he had a wife. After they found each other, the man begged her not to break up with him. He promised that he would divorce his wife soon, but in the end, because his wife's family was rich and powerful, he couldn't bear to part with her, and the woman got pregnant. F***CK. That's so melodramatic. Fong Tong Tong was shocked. And then, after that, the wife of the first wife beat the woman up again and caused her to have a miscarriage. After the incident, she was fired from the company, and the man disappeared without a trace. Could be said that he had nothing left. He was even cursed by others. In the end, he couldn't take the pressure and committed suicide at home. He didn't die? Chapter 1742. Huh, what's your rank in your hospital? From his tone, it sounded like he was at a very high rank. Shenjilia replied without even lifting his head. Department Director. D*MN, you're already a director at such a young age? D*MN. Fong Tong Tong looked like she was about to collapse. That can't be. Aren't directors usually in their 40s or 50s? You're such a young director. Are you serious? When Shenjilia heard that, he chuckled and said, Didn't Chanqian tell you? Of course not. She didn't even say a word. Look at how well she hid you. She didn't even tell me about such a big thing. Sigh. Yi Chanqian had just put the noodles into the pot. When she heard that, she felt a little smug and said, I'll just keep it to myself. Why should I tell you? Will this patient be difficult to handle? A little. He's having a mental breakdown. Based on his recent situation, he's showing signs of schizophrenia. If he doesn't handle it properly, he might just go crazy. Shenjilia was a little sympathetic. There are too many scumbags in this world. Exactly. There are too many scumbags. Fong Tong Tong was also indignant. If only all the men in this world were like you. You can't say that. If everyone was like me, how could they highlight my excellence? Shenjilia did not hold back at all. Yi Chanqian heard him from inside and snorted. Shameless. Can't you be a little more humble? There's no use in being humble. The halo of a genius like me can't be suppressed just because I'm humble. Pfft. Fong Tong Tong lifted her clothes. Hey, I don't even know how to respond to you like this. You should echo me and compliment me at a time like this. Shenjilia kindly reminded her. If you're cheated by a scumbag in the future, you can come to our hospital. I'll give you an insider discount. Pfft. Fong Tong Tong picked up an apple and threw it at him. Shut up. Shenjilia dodged and casually caught the apple. He put it back and said with a smile, I was thinking too much. A tough scumbag like you wouldn't dare to provoke you. Fong Tong Tong became even angrier. Are you saying that I'm too manly to get married? Chanqian, don't you care about your man? Yi Chanqian came out with a bowl of noodles and placed it in front of Shenjilia. She sat down beside him and said, What he said is the truth. You're so unfeminine. Isn't it normal that you can't get married? Husband and wife. You two are too hateful. Fong Tong Tong grabbed the bag of clothes and stood up. Then she headed to her room. I'm going to ignore you guys. However, as soon as he turned around, the smile on his face disappeared. They seemed to be a perfect match for each other. Fong Tong Tong headed straight for the bedroom. Shenjilia's voice sounded from behind her. Smells so good. Ha. Isn't it fragrant? It's fine if I don't cook, but once I do, I'll amaze you to death. Shenjilia sniffed the air and said with disdain, Just a few compliments, and you're getting all high and mighty. Bah, you dare to say it's not? Yes. Fong Tong Tong closed the door. She felt upset. Looking at the gym full of fitness equipment in front of him, he slowly walked up. Over the next 2 days, Shenjilia was as busy as a bee. Fong Tong Tong went to play on her own during the day. After Yi Chanqian got off work, the two of them went around together. Another night passed, and Shenjilia still hadn't returned from working. Chapter 1743. She looked at the time. It was already past 10 p.m. After Yi Chanqian showered, she called Shenjilia. The phone rang for a long time, but no one picked up. Fong Tong Tong was playing games on the sofa. When she saw Yi Chanqian like this, she said, Why are they so strict? He's not even married yet, and he's already like this. If he's married, it'll be terrible. When Yi Chanqian heard the teasing, she became even more impatient and said irritably, Old Shun hasn't been away for so long. In the past, he would call back to report that he's safe and sound. It's already so late, and there's no news at all. How can this be? Well, maybe he's busy. Don't worry too much. A man like Old Shin wouldn't mess around outside. No, Yi Qianqian's heart beat faster. She subconsciously reached out to touch her chest and whispered, I keep feeling that something will happen to him. Don't think too much. Nothing will happen. Fong Tong Tong didn't mind. She paused the game and poured her a glass of water. Dry your hair. He'll be back in a while. Yi Qianqian took the glass, but she wasn't in the mood to drink it. She continued to call Shinjilia. She called several times in a row, but no one picked up. Kingstown Huxin Hospital. Hurry up. What are you waiting for? Where's the patient? She's under control. We've given her a sedative for now, but she can't stay in our hospital in such a situation. Stay? Stay my ass. Director Shin is already like this. Who would dare to stay? Hurry up and give him a blood transfusion. The people in the psychology department were busy, rushing back and forth. Everyone looked like they were in a hurry. It was past 11 p.m. when the hustle and bustle slowly came to a stop. A doctor walked to the department director's office and found that Shinjilia's phone had more than a dozen missed calls. The note on it was clear. Future wife, love. When the doctor saw those words, he sighed, picked up the phone, turned around, and walked out. Yi Qianqian couldn't sleep. Shinjilia had never been like this. It was like he had disappeared into thin air. After tossing and turning, she finally got upset. She got up and logged into Shinjilia's WeChat account. The password for all of Shinjilia's social media accounts was the same. After Yi Qianqian logged in without any trouble, she immediately found Luo Ran. He sent a question mark over, followed by 2 words. Are you there? Yi Qianqian thought that Luo Ran would be either clubbing or having sex at this hour, so he wouldn't be able to recover quickly. But who knew that there would be an instant reply? Luo Ran. Here, Luo Ran. Another problem? Yi Qianqian looked at the words and said in a voice message, I'm Shinjilia's girlfriend. Yi Qianqian. It's already so late, and old Shin hasn't come back yet. I called him more than 20 times, but he didn't pick up. Do you know where he is? It was rare for Luo Ran to be a good boy at home, so he would watch a few comedies at home to relax. When he heard Yi Qianqian's voice, his heart skipped a beat. Tensing up, she straightened her back and typed a reply. This guy hasn't gone home yet? Is the phone in your hand now? Shinjilia. No, I just logged into his WeChat to ask you. Luo Ran. Well, I don't know. I'm in the capital. Isn't he in Kingstown? Chapter 1744. Shinjilia. Yeah, I think so too. Yi Qianqian had already changed her clothes. After putting on her shoes, she walked out. When Luo Ran saw her reply, he immediately felt that it was inappropriate. After thinking about it, he said, Why don't I ask him? Sister-in-law, don't be nervous. This guy is good at fighting. He can easily take on 2 people at once. Don't worry. When Yi Qianqian heard that, she didn't feel at ease. She thought about the female patient he mentioned a few days ago who was likely to go crazy. What if that woman really went crazy? A madman doesn't need to bear legal responsibility for killing someone. The more Yi Qianqian thought about it, the more scared she became. She picked up her bag and opened the door. Fong Tong Tong saw her and asked, Where are you going? I'm gonna look for old Shin. Aya, he's a man. What are you worried about? He just came back a little late. If you find him and he's fine, he might even say that you're too strict with him. Then it'll be awkward. Fong Tong Tong stood up. If he's at a party, he'll definitely be laughed at by his friends. How will he face the world then? Yi Qianqian didn't stop in her tracks. At that moment, her phone suddenly vibrated. It was a phone call. The caller was Shinjilia. Yi Qianqian quickly picked up the phone. Hello? Yeah. It was Shinjilia's voice. Yi Qianqian breathed a sigh of relief and shouted anxiously, Where are you? Ah. Shinjilia looked like he had just woken up from a dream and said, I got off work early today. My colleagues dragged me out for a drink. I got drunk, so I didn't answer the phone. Yi Qianqian had been worried for so long, but this was the answer she had been waiting for. She suddenly felt that her worries were unnecessary. Gritting her teeth, Yi Qianqian slammed the half-open door shut and said, I'll drink you to death. Where are you? I'll pick you up. There's no need. I'm resting at my colleague's house. Oh right. I have to go back to my hometown in the capital tomorrow. Something happened with my brother. I have to go back as soon as possible. Shin Luoan? Yeah. Shinjilia replied faintly. His voice sounded a little weak. When Yi Chanqian heard that, she knew that he had drunk too much and wasn't in a good state. She was a little annoyed, but there was nothing she could do about it. She asked, "What time is your flight tomorrow? I'll pack your luggage and send it over." "Where's your colleague's house?" "It's fine. It's a male colleague. If you don't believe me, I'll let him answer the phone." As he spoke, there was a soft noise coming from the other end. No! She just wanted to see him. It had been a whole night, and her heart was still hanging in the air, feeling very uncomfortable. Yi Chanqian swallowed the words that were on the tip of her tongue. "Sister-in-law, nice to meet you. I'm Zhoudawei, Xiao Zhou. Mr. Shin had dinner at my house and we drank a little too much. It's late now and Mr. Shin is not in a good state. We have to catch a plane back to the capital tomorrow morning. It's better to rest at my place." Xiao Zhou sounded rather sober. Yi Chanqian was silent for a moment before asking, "You didn't drink?" Little Zhou seemed a little embarrassed. "I've been suffering from gastric bleeding recently. My wife won't let me drink it, so I can only force other brothers to drink it. I'm sorry, sister-in-law, but I'll have to trouble you to stay alone tonight. I won't ask Chief Shin to come down again, I promise." Chapter 1745. All right. Xiao Zhou felt as if he had been pardoned. "In that case, sister-in-law, Brother Shin seems to have fallen asleep again. I'll hang up now." "Okay. Thank you for your hard work." "You're welcome." Xiao Zhou hung up the phone in trepidation before heaving a huge sigh of relief. Xiao Zhou returned the phone to Shinjilia with a pained expression and said, "Brother Shun, is it really okay to lie to sister-in-law like that? I think it's better to tell her." Shinjilia lay on the hospital bed. His eyes were squinted, and his face was extremely pale. A soft tube was attached to his arm, and a transparent liquid was slowly being transferred into his body. When he heard Xiao Zhou's words, Shinjilia opened his eyes and said, "It'll be even worse if I tell her. She'll be worried." "But are you going to stay in the hospital just like that? With your injuries, you'll need to stay here for at least some time. It won't do if you don't have a woman to take care of you." "It's fine. Go back to work. I can take care of it myself." Xiao Zhou panicked when he heard that. "What can you take care of? That's such a big wound, and you've lost so much blood. It's good enough that you're still alive. How are you going to survive? You might not even be able to use your arm for the rest of your life. If you don't take good care of it, we'll see who gets the short end of the stick in the future. It's my bad luck to have such a patient." Shinjilia smiled bitterly as he looked at his arm, which had more than 10 stitches. "Where's the woman?" "Sigh. She's been sedated and locked up for the time being. But how did she end up like this all of a sudden? Can't be, Dr. Shin." Shinjilia took a deep breath and said, "Get me some water." Xiao Zhou pouted, but he had no choice but to obediently pour some water. Shinjilia continued, "She said that I looked like her ex-boyfriend and wanted me to compensate her for the loss of her youth. She even told me to die with her. I'm so handsome, so how could I die with her? What a waste." So I resolutely resisted. She had a mental breakdown. After she smashed the cup, she stabbed me several times with the shards. Xiao Zhou was both angry and amused when he heard that. But when he looked at Shinjilia's hand, he couldn't bring himself to laugh. "You used your hand to block it?" "Of course, if I didn't use my hands to block it, I would have either gone blind or had my throat slit. In any case, I would have ended up worse than this." "Tisk." Xiao Zhou expressed his sympathy. "A woman who has lost her mind isn't scary. The scariest thing is that this crazy woman is a Sanda fighter. Thank you, Mr. Shin." "Well, where's the water?" "Coming." Yi Chanqian didn't sleep well that night. When the alarm clock rang the next day, she had only slept for a few hours. She got out of bed, washed up, and got ready to go to work. As soon as she got on the bus, she called Shinjilia. Shinjilia didn't seem to be fully awake. It rang a few times before the call was answered. "You're awake." Shinjilia sounded sleepy. When Yi Chanqian heard the voice, she yawned as well. "Yeah, I'm on the bus heading to the office. What time is your flight?" "Ah, it's 12 o'clock at noon. I have to arrive early." "All right, remember to drink some honey water or some hangover soup. Buy some plums before you board the plane. That way you won't feel so uncomfortable." "Yes." "All right, go to sleep. When will you be back?" "In a few days. I'll call you when I'm back." "Okay, go to sleep." "Okay." Shinjilia replied in a low voice. Just as Yi Chanqian was about to hang up, Shinjilia suddenly said, "Chanqian." "Yes, I love you." Chapter 1746. The corners of her lips curled up, but she said, "Why do you have so much to say? I'm hanging up." After hanging up, Yi Chanqian's drowsiness was swept away. She looked at the traffic jam in front of her and instantly felt more pleasing to the eye. Perhaps this was the power of love. After hanging up, Shinjilia pressed the lock screen. The screensaver showed Yi Chanqian's beautiful and exquisite face. It made people feel relaxed and happy. The door to the ward opened, and Xiao Zhou walked in with a thermos. When he saw the smile on Shinjilia's face, he teased, "Hey, hey, hey, what are you looking at? You look so happy. Are you looking at sister-in-law?" Shinjilia put down his phone and wiped the smile off his face. He looked at Xiao Zhou and raised his eyebrows. "You're early? It's getting late. Everyone in the hospital is already at work. I specially checked in before coming over. Come, have some porridge. I haven't brushed my teeth yet. Come, help me up." Shinjilia's hand was hurting badly. He was alone in the ward, and even going to the bathroom was a little difficult. Now that someone was around, he naturally had to do his job properly. Xiao Zhou was on good terms with Shinjilia. When he saw Shinjilia like this, he sighed and said, "Why don't you come clean with sister-in-law? You can't go on like this. Your hand needs to be monitored. You can't be careless." "It's fine. If she sees this, she'll despise me." Shinjilia sighed. His heart ached. From the beginning, he had been pestering Yi Chanqian. Yi Chanqian had never thought of marrying him. If she knew that he was in this state, how would she react? Xiao Zhou could tell that Shinjilia didn't seem to be joking. He laughed and said, "How could that be? Sister-in-law would feel bad for her own man. How can a woman not feel bad for him?" Shinjilia sat up with help. When he heard Xiao Zhou's words, he was silent for a moment before saying, "She's not the same. There's nothing different. Women are all like that, especially since you've lived with her for so long. Maybe she already sees you as her husband. Even if you're disabled, a woman can't despise you. You'd better ask sister-in-law to take care of you. I'm busy with work. I'm afraid that if something happens, I won't be able to take care of you. Go away. I'm a doctor after all. I know common sense. If you still can't do it, I'll press the nursing light. Go back to your work. I'll be fine." "That won't do. Why don't I go to your house and pack some clothes to change into? We still have to observe for a while. We can't just wear this, right? Go buy a few. Don't go back. Don't tell my woman." Little Zhou was speechless. He opened the kanji to cool and walked out. Fang Tongtong was alone in Yi Chanqian's house. She was bored. Shinjilia had been out on his own for several days. His days were getting more and more boring with each passing day, and Shinjilia didn't even come home. Why not just return to Cloud Town? Fang Tongtong packed her clothes and bought a suitcase. Then, she packed all her belongings together. She came empty-handed and returned with a load. When she was packing, she saw a business card on the table in the living room. A few days ago, when they were talking, Shinjilia had given her the business card of a single doctor. Fang Tongtong hadn't called him yet. When she looked at the white card, the corners of her lips slowly turned up. She picked up the landline in the living room and dialed the number. The call was quickly connected. Gu Yuanxing was at work. When he picked up his phone, he saw a notification. Director Shin's house. Chapter 1747. It must be sister-in-law, right? Gu Yuanxing glanced at the screen and felt a little uneasy. Why did his sister-in-law call him? I didn't do anything too serious. Did I? After some thought, Gu Yuanxing picked up the phone and answered the call. Hello. It was a very young voice. Fang Tongtong's eyes lit up when she heard it. Hello. Is this Dr. Gu Yuanxing? Yes, sister-in-law. Sister-in-law? Fang Tongtong was stunned for a moment when he suddenly called her name. However, she quickly realized who he was referring to. You've misunderstood. I'm not his girlfriend. I'm his girlfriend's best friend. Gu Yuanxing heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that and asked, Then how did you get my number? Ah. Fang Tongtong was a little embarrassed. She stammered for a while before she said, I just wanted to get to know more people. So old Shin gave me your name card. Gu Yuanxing nodded his head and didn't think too much about it. He asked, Are you with sister-in-law now? Not yet. Qian went to work. What's the matter? Well, since you called, I won't hide it from you. Something happened to Brother Shin recently. He lied when he said that he returned to the capital today. He was injured and didn't want sister-in-law to worry, so he didn't dare to tell the truth. Fang Tongtong was shocked when she heard that. No way. Old Shin was injured? Is it serious? Sigh, it's pretty serious. His arm was stabbed 4 times, and every stab was very deep. There were even glass shards inside. One of them even injured an artery. After a blood transfusion, he's much better now. However, such a serious injury can't go unattended. Old Shin didn't dare tell his girlfriend because he was afraid that she would be worried. We were still wondering if we should hire a caregiver for him. Hire a caregiver? Caregivers are extremely expensive. Fang Tongtong clicked her tongue and said, There's no need to hire a caregiver. Mr. Gu, why don't you send me the address? I'll go take a look. If the injury is really serious, I'll tell Qian and ask her to take care of old Shin. Gu Yuanxing was quiet for a moment before he said, All right, he's at Kingstown Huxin Hospital. Call me when you're here, and I'll tell you in person. All right, I'll go right away. Oh yes, why don't you prepare some clothes for Brother Shin? Brother Shin doesn't have any clothes in the hospital, and it's not convenient for me to look for sister-in-law. All right, I'll tidy it up. Thank you. Gu Yuanxing heaved a sigh of relief. I should be the one thanking you. Old Zhou was still thinking of buying it after work. There's no need for that now. How should I address you? Room. The room of the house. Okay, see you later. Fang Tongtong hung up the phone. After she changed her clothes, she hurriedly hailed a cab and left. When they arrived at the hospital, it was already half an hour later. Fang Tongtong called Gu Yuanxing and walked into the inpatient department. The call was quickly answered. Where are you? I'm in the inpatient department. Hey, I think I saw you. Are you wearing a white dress with long black hair and carrying a black bag? Yes. Fang Tongtong looked around and finally saw a young man wearing glasses at the end of the corridor. He was quite tall, and his face was powdered and powdered. He looked gentle and refined, and was quite tall. Chapter 1748. He was a handsome young man. Gu Yuanxing saw Fang Tongtong and said, Hello, I'm Gu Yuanxing. Fang Tongtong quickly reacted and nodded. Oh, hello, I'm Fang Tongtong. Gu Yuanxing smiled. He looked at the black bag in her hand and said, Is this Brother Shin's clothes? Give them to me. Yeah, I just took them. I don't know what he usually wears. I'm just staying at his house temporarily. Fang Tongtong handed it over. It's okay. It's fine as long as you have them. Come with me. Gu Yuanxing brought Fang Tongtong to Shinjilia's ward. Shinjilia was on an 4-drip. He sat on the bed and stared at his phone with a pale face. When he heard the door open, Shinjilia looked up. When he saw Fang Tongtong, his heart almost jumped out of his chest. Why are you here? Shinjilia exclaimed in surprise. He quickly got up. However, just as he stood up, he sucked in a breath of cold air. Fang Tongtong did not expect to see Shinjilia like this. She was shocked. When she saw Shinjilia's abnormally pale face, she was a little frightened. Fong Tong Tong shifted her gaze to Shinjilia's arm. His arm was wrapped tightly, and blood was still seeping out. It was obvious that the injury was serious. "How did you end up like this?" Fong Tong Tong exclaimed. "This is too tragic. If Chanqian saw this, she would be heartbroken. No, I have to call Chanqian. Your condition is too frightening." As she spoke, Fong Tong Tong had already picked up her phone. She found Chanqian's number and was about to call. Shinjilia was shocked and said, "No, no, Dr. Gu. Quickly hold her down. You can't call my woman." Gu Yuanxing did not expect the lady to be so direct. She immediately picked up the phone. When he saw Shinjilia's nervous expression, he quickly took the phone from Fong Tong Tong's hand and said, "Miss Fong, please don't do this. Brother Shin doesn't want sister-in-law to know. That's why I chose to tell you. If you do this, won't I become a sinner?" Gu Yuanxing pleaded. "Miss Fong, please don't be rash." Fong Tong Tong's phone was being held. She frowned when she saw Shinjilia's situation. "Chanqian will be worried. Chanqian doesn't know about my injury, right? You didn't tell her, did you?" Shinjilia stood up. The wound on his arm was throbbing in pain. "I didn't tell her, but you have no choice but to tell her about your condition." Fong Tong Tong felt that it was inappropriate. His arm was already in such a state. Shouldn't someone take care of him? "No, I told her that I went to the capital. If I tell her now that I was lying to her, won't she hate me to death? But if I don't say it, Chanqian will definitely hate me. You're different. You're her best friend, and she values you very much. No matter what, she wouldn't break up with you, would she?" Shinjilia asked. Fong Tong Tong was speechless. "Are you afraid that she'll break up with you?" Shinjilia was silent. "Don't worry, it's impossible. Although Chanqian doesn't say it, she likes you very much. She loves you to death. It's impossible for her to break up with you." Chapter 1749. As soon as Gu Yuanxing heard that, he knew that Shinjilia had come to settle scores with him. She subconsciously took a step back, coughed lightly, and said, "Brother Shun, I'm doing this for your own good. Look, I even asked this girl to pack some clothes for you." As he spoke, he tugged at the bag. The clothes inside quickly fell to the ground and fell into a pile. Fong Tong Tong was a little embarrassed. "I took everything from my suitcase. Last night, Chanqian prepared a few pieces of clothing for you and placed them in a small suitcase. I opened it up and took the clothes over, but I was in a hurry, so I casually scooped them up. Actually, I didn't know what was inside. Did Chanqian prepare this for me?" Shinjilia stared at the pile of clothes and felt a little happy. "Well, didn't you say you were going back to the capital today? She packed it for you and waited for you to go home to get it." Gu Yuanxing's face was full of envy, jealousy, and hatred. "Brother Shin, you're so lucky. You didn't even let sister-in-law know about this." Sigh, if sister-in-law knew, she would be so distressed. When Shinjilia heard this, he felt a little smug. From the looks of it, Yi Chanqian's heart wasn't without him. Even though he didn't go back last night, she still knew to prepare clothes for him, however. If Yi Chanqian found out that he was lying to her, Shinjilia sighed softly and said, "Let's wait for a few more days. We'll tell her when she's almost recovered. She's been very busy lately, and she hasn't been to work for a few days. We can't let her keep taking days off and running around." Most importantly, he didn't want her to worry. She looked at Fong Tong Tong and said, "You should go back first. Don't tell her about this. Just pretend that you don't know anything about it." Fong Tong Tong furrowed her brows and said, "How can I do that? If I know, I know. If I don't know, I don't know. If you want me to not tell Chanqian, that's fine too. Chanqian is more sensitive. If she finds out, she'll definitely be upset." Yes. Shinjilia understood Yi Chanqian, but Fong Tong Tong understood her even better. Although Yi Chanqian appeared carefree, she was more meticulous than most people. "Why don't you return to Cloud Town directly? That way, you won't have to hide it from Chanqian and go against your conscience." When Fong Tong Tong heard that, she felt even more annoyed and said, "Are you saying that you want me to leave you here to fend for yourself? I have a bunch of colleagues here, and this is my territory. What do you mean by self-destruction? Shinjilia found it a little funny. That's enough. It's none of your business. Go back. No, Chanqian has been busy recently, and I just thought that you went back to the capital. I have nothing to do all day, and I know how you are now. Let me take care of you. Anyway, you have colleagues to do the hard work. I'll just buy you food and bring you water. I think it's fine, Gu Yuanxing immediately replied. Anyway, Brother Shen, you can only lie down now. Let Xiao Fang accompany you to talk. How good would that be? Go to hell, no, men and women shouldn't touch each other. After all, I'm a single girl. What's the point of taking care of a man? No. Why are you so pretentious? The girl doesn't even mind. Gu Yuanxing said. Don't you think so, Xiao Fang? Chapter 1750. Gu Yuanxing clapped his hands. Good. Well said. Settled then. Brother Shen, I'm leaving. Little Fang, call me if you need anything. I'm ready to answer the phone anytime. Okay, go ahead. Fang Tong smiled. Soon, Gu Yuanxing felt relieved, turned around, and walked out. Shinjilia felt it was inappropriate. You should go back. It's not appropriate for a man and a woman to be alone. Why are you so talkative? Can you move by yourself? Why don't I call Chanqian over? The second half of the sentence hit Shinjilia's soft spot. Shinjilia pursed his lips and didn't say anything. From that day on, Fang Tong was busy running up and down the hospital. When Yi Chanqian went to work during the day, Fang Tong ran to the hospital. Fang Tong took care of ordering takeout, buying nutritious meals, changing medicine, pouring water, and other miscellaneous chores. If Shinjilia needed to go to the bathroom, he would call for his buddies to help him. Fang Tong slowly returned home in the evening. This went on for 3 to 4 days in a row. It was the weekend. It was rare that Yi Chanqian didn't sleep in on the weekend. She picked up her phone and scrolled through Weibo. She couldn't bear to read anything else. She closed the page and opened her contact list. Ever since Shinjilia returned to the capital, she had called Shinjilia more than 20 times. Each call lasted no more than 10 minutes. More importantly, Yi Chanqian had been the one to make all the calls in the past 10 minutes. Shinjilia hadn't taken the initiative to call her in the past few days. The more Yi Chanqian thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. She sent a text message. Yi Chanqian asked, "Are you awake?" There was no reply. She looked at the time. It was 8:30 in the morning. According to Shinjilia's normal biological clock, he should be awake by now. Yi Chanqian wanted to call him, but she immediately regretted her decision before the call could go through. Yi Chanqian hung up the phone and walked out in frustration. At that moment, Fang Tong walked out of the bathroom. She had changed into clothes that were suitable for going out instead of her normal pajamas. Yi Chanqian was a little surprised. Who are you going out with? Ah, haha. Fang Tong was a little embarrassed. I'm going to meet a classmate. I haven't seen him in a long time. Classmate? Who? You don't know him. I don't know them? Yi Chanqian found it strange. Stop fooling around. Are there any classmates you know that I don't know? Ahaha, that's right. Didn't you choose fewer elective courses in university? That's when I met her. You've never seen her before. Yi Chanqian found it even stranger. I wanted to go to the movies with you. Is the classmate you're talking about a guy or a girl? Don't tell me you're in love? Of course not. Sai, it's not that easy to fall in love. Sai, I'm going out. Fang Tong looked a little defeated. You should continue to catch up on sleep. You've been working overtime for so many days. Get some rest. When are you coming back? How about tonight? Oh, you've been coming home very late recently, and you've been spending time with your classmate? You leave early and return late, and you won't even let me see you. How dare you say that you're not dating? Yi Chanqian's eyes were mischievous. Tell me, who is the other party? Bah! Don't think too much about it. Hurry up and call your man. Mua! Fang Tong put on her shoes and quickly ran off. Chapter 1751. The Ways of the World. Enchanting slumped on the sofa out of boredom. She picked up her phone and clicked on the chat box with Shinjilia. Shinjilia's status on her WeChat was pinned at the top. His profile picture was of him wearing a white coat, and he looked like a proper person. She hadn't seen that face for days. She flipped through their chat history. Suddenly, her phone vibrated, and a new message came in. It was from WeChat. It was from Shinjilia. Shinjilia's message was a little strange. It was a few words. Have you seen the stars? Enchanting blinked her eyes in confusion. Sisai: Shinjilia? Sisai: yes, I have. Shinjilia: have you seen a 5-pointed star? Sisai: picture Enchanting drew a 5-pointed star and sent it over with a cheeky emoticon. Shinjilia: have you seen a 4-pointed star? Sisai: are there stars with 4 corners? Shinjilia: I miss you. At the same time that the message was sent, many 4-pointed stars fell from WeChat, glittering with golden light. Enchanting's heart warmed when she saw it, and she chuckled. She opened the video call and made the call. However, Shinjilia immediately rejected the call as soon as it was made. Shinjilia's reply came immediately. It's not convenient. The elders are talking. Sisai: your elders are talking, and you have the nerve to be daydreaming in front of them. Are you tired of living? Shinjilia: it doesn't matter, as long as you don't do it openly. I'm handsome, so I have special privileges. Sisai: are you shameless? Shinjilia: ha ha ha. Sisai: when are you coming back? Sisai: I miss you too. Sisai: Tong Tong might be going back in a few days. Come back soon. Shinjilia's heart warmed when he saw Enchanting's words. She said that she missed him too. God knew how rare it was to hear such words from Enchanting's mouth. However, looking at the water still dripping from his hand, he said, I'm afraid it'll take a few more days. I won't be back so soon. Enchanting was disappointed and asked, call me when you're ready. As soon as the message was sent, Shinjilia's call came in. Enchanting was pleasantly surprised. Hello? You woke up so early? Shinjilia's voice sounded lazy and low. It was obvious that he had just woken up. When she heard the voice, Enchanting felt a rush of heat in her heart. She became restless. Aren't you the elder talking? I said I had a stomachache, so I ran out. Shinjilia said this calmly. Life has been tough lately. I've been under pressure every day. Sigh. Okay, then I'll talk to old Shin. Thank you, comrade Little Goo. A loud female voice. A classic and familiar loud voice. Shinjilia's heart skipped a beat. He was caught off guard when the door to the ward was opened. His beloved Fong Tongtong's voice was especially jarring. Shinjilia subconsciously plugged his phone's microphone, but the moment he did so, Fong Tongtong's voice was cut off again. Fong Tongtong walked in with 2 sets of breakfast in her hands. Her eyes were fixed on Shinjilia. When she saw the phone in Shinjilia's hand, she was immediately shocked. She stammered, You're on the phone? Chapter 1752. Enchanting's curious voice drifted over. Shinjilia's heart was in his throat. He quickly replied, How is that possible? I'm in the capital. By the way, what has Tong Tong been up to recently? Enchanting smiled. Yes, how could that be possible? Shinjilia was in the capital and Fong Tong Tong was still in Kingstown. When she heard that, Enchanting tucked her hair behind her ear. She couldn't hide the smile on her lips as she said, She seems to be in a relationship recently. She's always happy when she goes out every day. When she comes back, she's already had her meal. I've been eating alone recently. Fortunately, this longtime bachelor is finally going to get rid of her single status. Sigh. I can finally breathe a sigh of relief. As Shinjilia listened, his eyes fell on Fong Tong Tong. The more he listened, the more guilty he felt. If Enchanting found out that Fong Tong Tong had nothing to do in the hospital recently, what would she think? Shinjilia suddenly regretted it. Enchanting stayed with Fong Tong Tong every day. They ate and lived together. It was hard to guarantee that Fang Tongtong wouldn't give herself away. Although there was nothing between them, Yi Qianqian's tone made it clear that Fang Tongtong had been in a relationship recently. If Yi Qianqian found out that Fang Tongtong's boyfriend was actually Shinjilia, wouldn't that be bad? What are you doing? Yi Qianqian asked when she saw that Shinjilia was not speaking. Shinjilia immediately snapped back to reality. He laughed and said, "Nothing. My grandmother was talking to me just now. Remember to eat on time when I'm not around. Have you been busy at work recently?" "Yeah, I've been crazy busy. There's a lot of things that have been backlogged, and I have to deal with all of them. Yesterday was Friday, and I worked overtime until 10 o'clock at night. Fortunately, Tong Tong had already had her meal when she came back. Otherwise, my heart would be filled with guilt." "You!" Shinjilia felt his heart ache. Yi Qianqian's mouth was sometimes unforgiving, but Shinjilia knew that she was just a tough mouth. Deep down, she was kinder than anyone else. She had this kind of attractive quality, which was why he was so attracted to her. Shinjilia's heart softened, and he took a deep breath. "Don't tire yourself out. If you're too busy with work, you can ask Lily to help you. Anyway, Lily is waiting at home to give birth. She's bored all day." "That won't do. She's pregnant. If Oming finds out, I'll be hacked to death." Shinjilia chuckled. He glanced at Fang Tongtong, who was rooted to the spot, and said, "That's true. I'll tell you later. I'll be busy for a while." "All right." Yi Qianqian reluctantly hung up the phone. Yi Qianqian hugged the large doll on the sofa and rolled over. Her heart felt as if it had been pricked by a rusty hook. It was itchy and painful. Busy, busy, busy. Busy in Kingstown, busy back in the capital. Yi Qianqian bit the nose of the big puppy. "Are you so busy that you don't even have time to talk to me? You bastard." However, she would soon be able to see him again. The corners of Yi Qianqian's lips curled up. She turned around and picked up her phone. Fang Tongtong put down the breakfast and carefully walked over. "Did I speak too loudly just now?" he asked with some uncertainty and apprehension on his face. Chapter 1753. When Fang Tongtong saw Shinjilia's expression, she immediately knew what was going on. He immediately closed his eyes, put his palms together in front of his eyes, and said sincerely, I'm sorry, old Shun. I really didn't mean it. I didn't know you were on the phone. The person who called just now was Qianqian, right?" Shinjilia's expression darkened, but he didn't answer her directly. He said, "It's better if you don't come here anymore. My condition is much better now. I'll be discharged in a few days. I don't need your care anymore." Fang Tongtong's heart skipped a beat. "How can we do that?" "No way." Shinjilia frowned when he heard that. "I can get up on my own now. I can even eat and go to the bathroom. I don't need anyone to take care of me anymore." Fang Tongtong also realized that she might have overreacted. After a moment of silence, she said, "You might think that your condition is much better, but Xiao Gu just told me that your wound is still healing, could reopen at any time. If it bleeds and becomes inflamed, it'll be very troublesome." Yi Qianqian looked at Fang Tongtong. "Gu Yuansheng told you?" Fang Tongtong nodded. "Then tell Gu Yuansheng to come in and tell me." Fang Tongtong's expression darkened. "Don't you trust me? I came here to take care of you for the past few days because you didn't want Qianqian to know, so I didn't dare to tell her about you. Every day when I'm with her, I'm afraid that I won't be able to stop myself from telling her. Do you know how tormented I am?" Fang Tongtong's words were direct and carried an indescribable sense of grievance. Shinjilia pursed his lips and remained silent. "I'm Qianqian's best friend. Recently, Qianqian has been as busy as a spinning top. She gets off work very late every day. However, it's the weekend these 2 days and you can't leave someone to take care of you. I think I'd better talk to her about it." As she spoke, Fang Tongtong had already picked up her phone and looked like she was about to make a call. Shinjilia's expression darkened. "Are you threatening me?" "How is this a threat? It's only right for your girlfriend to take care of you. But Qianqian has been so busy lately, and you're afraid that she'll tire herself out. As Qianqian's best friend, I have no choice but to help. Because of your request, I'm stuck in the middle, and now I'm being chased away by you. What the F asterisk CK? As Fong Tong Tong spoke, her eyes reddened. Turning around, he said, "Forget it. It's the weekend anyway. Go and call her over yourself." These words, Shinjilia felt a headache coming on. He raised his hand and shouted, "Wait a minute. Why are you looking for Qianqian now? I already told her that I'm in the capital. Aren't you trying to slap me in the face? Then what should I do? You won't let me stay here, and you can't be alone here. If you get infected by yourself, it'll be fatal. Do you want me to watch my best friend's boyfriend die in front of me?" Shinjilia was speechless. He could only feel the pain from the wound on his arm. "Forget it, I'm hungry. What did you buy?" Fong Tongtong's back was facing Shinjilia, and the corners of her lips curled up. But he quickly restrained himself, turned around, and opened the lunchbox he had just bought, and said, "Light porridge." Shinjilia had asked Gu Yuanxing about it, and it was indeed Gu Yuanxing who had said that. This was because the possibility of infection had been greatly reduced. Now, the probability had become very, very small, but they still had to be prepared. Chapter 1754. However, time seemed to be crawling at a snail's pace. On Sunday, Yi Qianqian slept the entire day at home. When she woke up, it was already evening. The dim light in the surroundings made everything look like it was covered with a layer of gray veil. The lights in the house weren't turned on, and Fong Tong Tong hadn't returned yet. Yi Qianqian looked at everything in front of her, and waves of emptiness assaulted her heart. Inexplicably, she felt as if she had been abandoned by the entire world. Loneliness, solitude, her heart ached. Yi Qianqian reached for her phone and looked at the time. It was 7 o'clock in the evening. Yi Qianqian tapped on her contact list and immediately dialed the number that she was extremely familiar with. The call was quickly picked up. There was a burst of noise before Shinjilia's voice could be heard. Shinjilia coughed heavily before asking, "What's wrong?" Yi Qianqian's heart felt empty, and she felt extremely uncomfortable. She stood up and turned on the lights. It was a little blinding, but at least the feeling of emptiness had faded a lot. "I just woke up and dreamed of you." Yi Qianqian sat on the bed and narrowed her eyes. "Guess what I dreamed of?" "Well, if you can dream of me, it's definitely not an empty dream. It's probably that your mind was filled with my handsome face, and you couldn't walk because of my handsomeness?" "Eft." Shinjilia made a soft sound. "Brother Shin, can you be a little more shameless?" When Yi Qianqian heard the sound, she laughed out loud. "Look, even your colleagues are saying that you're shameless. Can't you speak properly?" "Well, let me guess. You dreamed that we got married? Then we gave birth to an adorable daughter? Then we held our daughter's hand together, and the family of 3 happily went to school. During the day, we went to school and went to work separately. At night, we went home together and dreamed together." Yi Qianqian's heart warmed, but she still retorted, "That's called daydreaming. I really did have that kind of dream." After Shinjilia said that, he immediately realized what was going on. "What did you dream of just now?" "I dreamed that we broke up. Then, you went around crying, telling everyone that I had dumped you and that I was fooling around outside. I went around saying that it wasn't me. It wasn't me." As Yi Qianqian spoke, she chuckled. "But you kept slandering me. You said that I cheated on you and that I had another man outside. Then my reputation was ruined. Everyone was spitting on me. Then I woke up in shock." Shinjilia was silent for a moment before he said, "That's what you call daydreaming. You can't even dream about breaking up with me. I'll go." Yi Qianqian felt much more at ease after hearing his words. Her stomach growled, and she immediately said, "I'm hungry. I'm going to eat. Bye." "Hello." Shinjilia wanted to say something else, but Yi Qianqian had already hung up. Yi Qianqian's lips curled up in a good mood. She tossed her phone aside and went outside to cook some noodles for herself. However, he immediately regained his senses. Just now, who was the person on the other end of the line? Only his colleagues would address him as Brother Shin. That was why she said it was his colleague. But wasn't Shinjilia supposed to be at home in the capital? Why didn't Shinjilia refute her? Before Yi Chanxian could figure it out, the door opened. Fong Tongtong walked in with a tired expression. When she saw Yi Chanxian, she greeted her and said, "Hi. Yeah, I'm cooking noodles. Have you eaten?" "I have." Chapter 1755. There was a hint of ambiguity in Yi Chanxian's words. When Fong Tongtong saw it, she felt a little guilty. She averted her eyes, not daring to meet Yi Chanxian's eyes. She said bashfully, "What little boyfriend? There's nothing like that." "Nothing?" Yi Chanxian leaned over. "Why are you blushing if there's nothing like that?" Wow, Fong Tongtong actually knows how to be shy. "Quick, tell me, what kind of person is that man? Is he handsome?" Fong Tongtong felt even more uneasy. She turned her head away and said, "Don't overthink it. He's not a man." If he's not a man, you leave early and return late every day?" Yi Chanxian clearly did not believe her. TSK. When Fong Tongtong saw Yi Chanxian skillfully cooking noodles, the guilt in her heart lessened a little. "But I really didn't expect that you would get into a relationship so soon after coming to Kingstown. You'll have to come to Kingstown more often in the future." Yi Chanxian extinguished the fire and sat down on the sofa with the noodles. Fong Tongtong looked at her. Her heart was beating a little fast. She sat down in front of Yi Chanxian and said, "Actually, I'm not going on a date recently. He was injured, so I went to the hospital to take care of him." "Injured? What happened?" "It was a work injury. I'm not too sure about the details, but the injury was pretty serious. He had to get 12 stitches on his arm, and his artery was injured. He's still in the hospital after a blood transfusion." Yi Chanxian gasped. "That can't be. Is his hand all right?" "It's fine. Fortunately, it didn't hurt his nerves. As long as he recuperates, his hand will be fine." Fong Tongtong looked at Yi Chanxian and smiled. "He's much better now." "That's good. That's good. But what kind of job is this? It's too dangerous. His hand was perfectly fine, and it ended up like this. His life might be in danger in the future." Yi Chanxian was frightened when she heard that. "You have to make a good choice when it comes to marriage. Tell him to quit when he's better." Fong Tongtong laughed. "It's just an exception. It's not as dangerous as it is every day. This job is still very stable." "What do you do?" "Doctor. Haven't the doctor-patient relationship been a little tense lately? I can't help it even if I bump into them occasionally." Fong Tongtong shrugged. "Doctor? What a coincidence. Haha. Old Shun is also a doctor, but he's a psychiatrist. He's nothing compared to those doctors who can save lives with a knife. Bring me to meet him if there's a chance." Yi Chanxian was surprised. "Yeah." Fong Tongtong felt a little guilty and lowered her head. "I'll bring him home when he's better." "Great. What does he look like?" "He looks good when he smiles. His teeth are very neat, and he loves to smile. He's also very tall and has fair skin, but he's very masculine. He likes to work out, and he's healthy, sunny, and handsome." Fong Tongtong's face was filled with fascination when she talked about this person. Yi Chanxian looked at her with a mischievous glint in her eyes. "It looks like you've really fallen for him this time. A man that you like must be very outstanding, right?" "Of course, he is very, very outstanding. I like him very, very much." "Ha ha ha. Does she like you?" "Of course." Fong Tongtong's face heated up. "Otherwise, it's just that I'm too busy shaving my head. It's boring." Yi Chanxian patted her on the shoulder and said, "That's good. Get along well. When you get married, I'll be your bridesmaid." Chapter 1756. Yi Chanxian suddenly remembered something and quickly looked down. "Oh, my noodles!" As soon as she looked down, Yi Chanxian felt that the person she was describing was very similar to Shinjilia. Loved to smile and looked good when he smiled. Loved to work out and was sunny. Every single description matched perfectly with Shinjilia's. However, Yi Chanxian was immediately amused by her own thoughts. It was just a coincidence. Enchanting picked up the noodles with her chopsticks and took a big bite. Fong Tong Tong stared at Enchanting eating the noodles. She felt nervous and excited. Felt as if she was doing something bad. However, Fong Tong Tong was addicted to the feeling and couldn't extricate herself. Excited. After finishing her noodles, Enchanting sat on the sofa and played with her phone. All she could think about was what Fong Tong Tong had just said about her little boyfriend. They were both doctors and they looked the same. It was just a work-related injury. In the past, no matter how busy Shinjilia was, he would always report to her. However, Shinjilia suddenly told her that he was going to the capital and didn't even come back to pack his clothes. Wasn't it a little rushed? Shinjilia. After dying several times in the boring puzzle game, Enchanting closed the page and stared at the coffee table in a daze. Once she thought about it, Enchanting couldn't stop. Some things simply couldn't stand up to any scrutiny. Once one seriously analyzed it, everything that was supposed to be logical became wrong. Enchanting picked up her phone and thought about it. She decided to call Shinjilia. The call was quickly connected. Shinjilia seemed to be watching television. She could hear the sound of the television. Enchanting asked, "What are you doing?" "Nothing. I'm just bored." "Well." Enchanting's heart beat faster. "Do you have nothing to do at home in the capital?" "Yeah. I'm bored, but my grandmother won't let me go back to Kingstown. She wants me to stay for a few more days. Why don't I go to the capital to look for you? Haven't you always wanted me to meet your parents and your grandmother? I think I'm ready." Enchanting's heart beat faster. She held her breath nervously. She thought that Shinjilia would happily agree to it. Surprisingly, Shinjilia didn't respond immediately. Instead, he paused for a moment before saying, "Recently, I've been quite busy at home. My brother's matter has caused a huge commotion at home. It's not appropriate for you to come at this time." Enchanting was a little disappointed. She felt that something was amiss and asked, "Is Shinmanting back?" Shinjilia paused for a moment. "Yeah. She's pregnant." "Yes. It just so happens that I haven't seen Shinmanting in a long time. I'll go and see her." Shinjilia was even more flustered. He tightened his grip on his phone and thought for a moment before replying, "Anything is fine." But Manting's mood hasn't been stable lately, and the house is a little chaotic. I might not be able to entertain you when you're here. Grandma and Mom and Dad have been quite vexed lately. This meant that he didn't want her to go. Enchanting was disappointed. "All right, next time, then." After talking about some trivial matters, Enchanting grew bored. She hung up the phone and leaned back on the sofa. It shouldn't be like this. Shinjilia should have overcome all obstacles and welcomed her no matter what. Chapter 1757. It was a sleepless night. Perhaps it was because she had slept too much during the day, or perhaps it was because of the increasingly strange thoughts in her heart. But she couldn't fall asleep no matter how hard she tossed and turned. The next day, Fong Tong Tong still woke up early. When Enchanting saw her putting on her shoes in the entryway, she asked, "Did you go out?" "Yeah." Fong Tong Tong seemed to be in a good mood as she hummed a tune. When Enchanting saw Fong Tong Tong's expression, she casually asked, "Which hospital does your boyfriend work at?" Fong Tong Tong was taken aback. She suddenly felt guilty and laughed. "At a not-so-big hospital. Private enterprise? Not really? What's your name?" Fong Tong Tong didn't know what to say. She couldn't possibly say that it was Hushin Hospital, could she? He suddenly remembered the name of a hospital that he had inadvertently memorized last time and said, "Fongchi Hospital. Damn, that hospital is a Class 3 Grade A hospital. How can it be a small hospital?" Fong Tong Tong felt a little awkward. She laughed dryly and said, "Ha! I don't really understand either. I'll be leaving first. Wait for me, I'm ready too. I have to go to work. Let's go together." After Enchanting was done drying the clothes, she went to her room to retrieve her bag. She put on her shoes and walked toward Fong Tong Tong. Fong Tong Tong looked at the time with an indecipherable expression on her face. "Let's go." The two of them got off the elevator. There was a bus stop at the entrance of the neighborhood. Enchanting walked toward the bus stop and waved at Fong Tong Tong. "I'm going to work." Fong Tong Tong nodded and waved her hand as she hailed a taxi. Fangchi Hospital was on the opposite side of the bus stop. It was not far from here. It would only take about 10 minutes to walk there. When Yi Qianqian looked at the taxi, she realized that it had originally been moving in the same direction, but it had deliberately turned around and headed in the opposite direction. Yi Qianqian frowned when she saw that. Fong Tong Tong was lying to her. The doubts that had tormented her for the whole night were magnified at this moment. Yi Qianqian saw an empty car driving over from afar. She stopped it and pointed at the car that Fong Tong Tong was in and said, "Follow that car." The chauffeur gave Yi Qianqian a strange look but didn't ask any questions. He quickly drove off. There were many cars coming and going during the rush hour. Yi Qianqian sent a message to her supervisor to ask for a leave of absence. After a lot of negotiation, she was finally granted her leave. Fong Tong Tong's car drove further and further away. About 20 minutes later, she finally stopped. Huxin Hospital. When Yi Qianqian stopped, the sense of crisis that had been lurking in her heart suddenly rose. But it was quickly suppressed. No. It was just a coincidence. Yi Qianqian refused to believe her. She paid the taxi fare and followed Fong Tong Tong's footsteps. Fong Tong Tong bought breakfast at the entrance of the hospital. From the looks of it, she seemed to be very familiar with the people in the hospital. She greeted quite a few people along the way. "Xiao Fong, you're here again. Brother Shin is probably still sleeping. You're so early every day. Brother Shin is so lucky." Yi Qianqian's heart felt like it was being squeezed by a large hand. It was so heavy that she couldn't breathe. Brother Shin, who else could it be but Xinjilia? Her originally unshakable trust in Xinjilia was suddenly lifted up in front of her. It was as if he was asking her, "Do you still believe in him?" Fong Tong Tong walked all the way to a ward. Yi Qianqian followed her and dodged around. Fortunately, there were many people around, so it wasn't obvious what her motive was. Chapter 1758. His familiarity with the ward did not show any awareness of entering someone else's boyfriend's ward. Fong Tong Tong quickly closed the door. Yi Qianqian leaned against the door and picked up her phone. After turning his phone to silent mode, he sent a WeChat message to Xinjilia. "Are you awake?" The phone inside rang. It was Xinjilia. The last sliver of hope that Yi Qianqian was holding on to shattered inch by inch. His originally enthusiastic heart also cooled down inch by inch. "You're eating this again? Can't you come up with something new?" Xinjilia's voice was filled with disdain. Yi Qianqian's heart felt as if it had been struck by something. The originally bright and clean mirror instantly cracked. Her phone vibrated. It was a reply from Xinjilia. "Xinjilia, I've been woken up by my own handsomeness." Yi Qianqian gripped her phone tightly. Her throat hurt. Yi Qianqian deliberately searched for the airport's address and sent it over. "Sisai, pick me up in the afternoon. I'm coming for you." Xinjilia was inside, and when he saw the news, his body trembled. "What's wrong?" Fong Tong Tong asked. "Qianqian wants to go to the capital to look for me." Xinjilia felt a headache coming on. "Gosh, how am I supposed to play this game?" "Sisai, I have a surprise for you, ha ha ha. Aren't you in the capital?" Xinjilia. "Of course I'm in the capital. It's just that I'm overwhelmed with work at home. It's best if you don't come." "Sisai, you were the one who told me to meet your parents, and now you're telling me not to go. Are you crazy?" "Sisai, do you not want me to see your parents anymore? Have you changed your mind? Falling in love with someone else?" Xinjilia. "How is that possible? I'll have to meet my parents sooner or later, but now isn't the right time." "Sisai, then tell me clearly, is it you who won't let me go? Or is it your grandma's parents who won't let me go?" Xinjilia. "It's me. I don't think the timing is right." "Sisai, why is the timing not right?" Xinjilia. "Busy at home." "Sisai, I want to hear the truth." Xinjilia. "I'm really busy." Yi Qianqian's heart sank when she read his words. Clutching his phone, he felt as if his heart was being pricked by needles. Xinjilia looked at his phone and realized that Yi Qianqian wasn't replying to him anymore. After some thought, Xinjilia called Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian looked at the phone and refused to answer it. Xinjilia panicked and made another call. Yi Qianqian composed herself and took a deep breath before answering the call. Xinjilia was delighted and quickly called out, "Hey, Qianqian." "Yes." "Where are you now? I came to find you." "That? I've been busy lately, so, is that so?" Yi Qianqian no longer lowered her voice. He turned to the side and pushed the door open. Fong Tong Tong sat on a stool by the bed and was preparing breakfast. Xinjilia leaned against the headboard and was on the phone. When Fong Tong Tong and Xinjilia saw Yi Qianqian standing at the door, they were both shocked. When Yi Qianqian saw the scene, she found it even more hilarious. Her best friend, and her boyfriend, the man she thought she could entrust the rest of her life to. "I really, really like him. Does she like you?" "Of course. Otherwise, it's just that I'm hot-headed. It's boring." So, they were really together, right? Chapter 1759. Xinjilia couldn't react at all. He stared at Yi Qianqian for a moment before he mumbled, "Qianqian." Yi Qianqian opened the door wider and walked forward. Fong Tong Tong looked at Yi Qianqian. She wanted to say something, but when she opened her mouth, no words came out. Awkward, especially when she thought about what she said to Yi Qianqian the night before. Fong Tong Tong felt that her current posture was a little ugly. Best friend. Boyfriend. Best friend's boyfriend. Since everyone is here, there are some things that we should all be clear about. Yi Qianqian's lips were slightly curved, but her uneven breathing clearly revealed her feelings at that moment. She wasn't as calm as she appeared to be. Xinjilia's heart skipped a beat. He immediately stood up and walked forward. But before he could say anything, he saw Yi Qianqian walk forward. Yi Qianqian's cheeks, which were usually gentle and playful, were abnormally red. Yi Qianqian gritted her teeth and walked forward. She raised her hand and slapped it hard. Slap. The loud sound of the slap was especially loud in the quiet ward. Xinjilia was stunned by the slap. He felt a burning sensation on his cheek, and Yi Qianqian's expression was almost contorted, but she still tried her best to maintain a calm expression. Yi Qianqian was furious. Fong Tong Tong exclaimed in surprise. She immediately stood up and explained, "Qianqian, you've misunderstood. I don't have the kind of relationship you think I have with him." In Yi Qianqian's ears, Fong Tong Tong's words sounded more like a proud boast. "Ha ha." Yi Qianqian looked at Fong Tong Tong. Her voice was so cold that even she found it strange. "Is this the doctor boyfriend you were talking about? Mutual affection?" Fong Tong Tong felt as if she had bitten her tongue. She wanted to say something, but she couldn't say a word. Yes, she was the one who said it. She was the one who said all the words. "Qianqian." Xinjilia held Yi Qianqian's hand uneasily. Let go." Yi Qianqian was on the verge of breaking down. Her voice was already choking. "Xinjilia, what do you take me for?" Xinjilia panicked. He grabbed her hand and squeezed it tightly. "I just don't want you to worry. Get lost. Let go of Xinjilia. We're done for." Yi Qianqian flung his hand off forcefully and bellowed, "Go to hell with the capital. Go to hell with your work." "Qianqian." Fong Tong Tong panicked as well. She had grown up with Yi Qianqian and had never seen Yi Qianqian in such a state. "I'm sorry, Qianqian." F***CKU. "I'm sorry. B***TSH. Yi Qianqian retreated and suddenly laughed. "Do you like to steal from others? Fine, I'll give it to you. I don't care for such a piece of **T. Fong Tong Tong's breathing quickened. She found it hard to believe that Yi Qianqian would have such a side to her. Her hysterical words fell into Xinjilia's ears. It was as if Yi Qianqian had taken a hoe and was viciously digging into his heart. "Yi Qianqian." Xinjilia wanted to chase after her, but Yi Qianqian retreated as if she had seen a wild beast. Yi Qianqian's flushed face was filled with disdain. She turned around abruptly and broke into a run. Shinjilia panicked. The moment Yi Qianqian turned around, he immediately chased after her. He reached out to grab her arm and shouted, Qianqian, Qianqian, it's not what you think it is. A few days ago, Chapter 1760. Everyone turned to look at her. Shinjilia was holding her hand. It was his right hand. It was his right arm that had received 12 stitches. Yi Qianqian didn't hold back. Shinjilia grunted, but he didn't loosen his grip on her arm. I told you about the female patient a few days ago. Do you remember her? It's her. Let go. Yi Qianqian calmed down, but her voice was as cold as ice. Shinjilia panicked even more. When he saw Yi Qianqian like this, the words that were on the tip of his tongue were stuck in his throat like a fishbone. He couldn't get them out. Qianqian, I told you to let go. Are you deaf? Yi Qianqian screamed hysterically. More and more people gathered to watch. Lao Zhou was attracted by the noise. He squeezed into the crowd and saw Yi Qianqian holding Shinjilia. When he saw the blood on Shinjilia's arm, he was even more shocked. He ran forward and asked, Brother Shin, what happened? As he shouted, he rushed forward and grabbed Shinjilia's hand. Oh my God! Do you want to die? Let go. If you don't let go, your hand will be crippled. Shinjilia's eyes were fixed on Yi Qianqian. Qianqian, I didn't mean to lie to you. I just didn't want you to worry. Let go. This is the last time. Although Yi Qianqian's face was red, her eyes were extremely calm. She looked at Shinjilia coldly. I heard that if you bite your tongue into an artery, you'll die. Her voice was as cold as ice. She looked at Shinjilia indifferently. Her expression was cold and determined. It was Shinjilia's first time seeing Yi Qianqian like this. He was a little scared. His hand unconsciously loosened. Yi Qianqian flung him aside forcefully and strode forward. Yi Qianqian, Shinjilia shouted and instinctively wanted to chase after her. However, Lao Zhou quickly grabbed him and said, Brother Shin, you don't want your hand anymore? Shinjilia roared, No! He pushed Lao Zhou away and chased after her. However, there were many people in the corridor. Yi Qianqian squeezed into the crowd. By the time Shinjilia caught up with her, he had already lost sight of her. Shinjilia looked at the corridor and strode out. He looked left and right, but in the end he didn't see anything. Lao Zhou caught up with him, looking a little nervous. Brother Shin, you should take care of your wound as soon as possible. Look, it's bleeding. If it gets infected, it won't be a joke. Where's my woman? Shinjilia turned to look at Lao Zhou. Have you seen her? Where did she go? Lao Zhou was stunned. He hadn't been paying attention to the girl at all. All his attention was on Shinjilia's arm. Lao Zhou didn't know how to respond to Shinjilia's question. Shinjilia gritted his teeth. Give me the phone. When Elder Zhou heard this roar, he knew that the situation was getting serious. Shinjilia snatched the phone from her and dialed Yi Qianqian's number. Yi Qianqian turned around and ran into the fire escape door. He closed the door and listened to the sounds coming and going from outside. It was as if the whole world had become distant at this moment. Chapter 1761. It was over. It was time to end it. She had a best friend and a boyfriend. It was time to end it. She closed her eyes tightly and turned to walk to Basement 1. Basement 1 and Basement 2 were both underground parking lots. Neither Shinjilia nor Fang Tongtong could go there. Yi Qianqian jogged down the stairs. Her phone began to vibrate. She picked it up and saw an unknown number. She was in Kingstown. She didn't think anyone else would call her at a time like this except for Shinjilia or Fang Tongtong. She glanced at the number, hung up, and switched off her phone. Shinjilia searched the entire hospital, regardless of whether it was the corridors or the doors. He also asked the patients, nurses, and doctors who were passing by. But no one saw him. It was as if he was hiding on purpose and didn't want Shinjilia to find him. Fang Tongtong followed behind Shinjilia. Lao Zhou looked at Shinjilia awkwardly and said, Brother Shun, you can't do this. Your hand. Hand? Shinjilia glanced at his arms. His hands, which had been properly bandaged, were now stained red with blood. It looked a little scary. Shinjilia only realized that his arm was hurting when he saw it. Yeah, Shinjilia replied. His pale face turned even uglier. Let's go. No matter what, you have to take care of yourself first before you explain this misunderstanding to sister-in-law. Lao Zhou scratched his head. He was already clumsy, but he didn't know what else to say. He subconsciously glanced at Fang Tongtong. Lao Zhou felt even more awkward. He had always thought that Miss Fang was Shinjilia's boyfriend. He had been calling her sister-in-law for so many days. He was wondering why Shinjilia didn't seem to be that passionate toward Fang Tongtong. He thought he was a hypocrite and didn't love his girlfriend as much as he appeared to love her. He didn't expect it to be a misunderstanding. In this way, everything made sense. Fang Tongtong had been trying to get close to Shinjilia, but Shinjilia's attitude was neither too close nor too distant. Lao Zhou didn't think it was appropriate for this girl. When almost everyone who knew Shinjilia started calling her sister-in-law, she had never denied it. Otherwise, why would he think so? Based on Shinjilia's reaction, it was obvious that the girl was his real girlfriend. It was obvious that their relationship had fallen apart. Shinjilia walked back to his room like a zombie. He retrieved his cell phone and dialed Yi Yuyu's number. Yi Yuyu was still sleeping. It was rare for Li Jinnan to be at home with his wife. When he saw that the caller was Shinjilia, he didn't hesitate to answer the call. What's up? His voice was light and carried the laziness of someone who just woke up. When Shinjilia heard Li Jinnan's voice, he was silent for a moment before asking, "Where's Yuyu?" "He's asleep." "What's the matter?" "I'll pass on the message for you." "Did Qianqian call her?" "No." "Well, if Qianqian calls you, please let me know. I'll be very grateful." Chapter 1762. Did they quarrel? Shinjilia chuckled, but his eyes were slightly red. If only it were that simple. That's all. Let me know if I call you again. Okay. After hanging up, Shinjilia passed the phone to Yu Lily. Yi Qianqian didn't have many friends. Other than her best friend Fang Tongtong, Yu Lily was the closest to her. The phone rang a few times, but no one picked up. Shinjilia gripped his phone tightly. Yu Lily was also pregnant, so she was probably still asleep. This also meant that it was very likely that Yi Qianqian hadn't called her at all. Otherwise, Yu Lily would have long been awake. As expected, the call was quickly connected. It was exactly as Shinjilia had expected. Shinjilia hung up the phone in defeat and allowed his colleague to treat his wound. Fang Tongtong stood far away and looked at Shinjilia, not daring to approach. Suddenly, Shinjilia looked over. Fang Tongtong suddenly tensed up. Her entire body tensed up as she looked at Shinjilia. Shinjilia stared at Fang Tongtong for a long time before saying, "You should go back to Yun Town. It's already chaotic enough." He didn't scold or complain. There was only this kind of estrangement that was so obvious that it made people's hearts feel stuffy. It was cold and determined, without the slightest bit of mercy. Although Shinjilia wasn't close to her these days, he had never treated her with such an attitude. But I'm very curious. Aren't you Qianqian's best friend? Why didn't you say a word when she was so angry just now? Based on her trust in you, she would believe you as long as you explain. Shinjilia's voice was a little sharp, and it could even be said to be a little aggressive. Fang Tongtong held her breath. She didn't know what to say. Gu Yuanxing heard the commotion and rushed over. He heard Shinjilia's words the moment he entered. When he heard that, he knew things weren't simple. He was about to speak up for Fang Tongtong when he saw Shinjilia's slightly swollen face the moment he entered. It was red and swollen. Gu Yuanxing swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue and said, "Brother, shun your face." Shinjilia's eyes were fixed on Fang Tongtong as he asked indifferently, "Did you tell her something else?" Fang Tongtong's eyes were fixed on Shinjilia. Fang Tongtong didn't know how to respond to his interrogation. Or rather, when faced with such a Shinjilia, her reflexes had been forced to slow down by half a beat. She did something bad. But how could she say it? How could she say it here? I didn't. Qianqian's personality has always been like this. You've lived with her for so long. You know her very well, don't you? She's always been like this since she was young. She'll be happy if things go her way, and she'll make a fuss if things don't go her way. Fong Tong Tong looked at Shinjilia. But this was the truth, wasn't it? Yes, that was the truth. That's the kind of person Qian is. She likes to make a mountain out of a molehill. The only reason she's treating you like this now is because she doesn't love you enough. Otherwise, why wouldn't she listen to your explanation? Chapter 1763. Fong Tong Tong's words were harsh and hurtful. When the people in the ward heard that, they couldn't help but look at each other. Finally, their gazes fell on Shinjilia. Shinjilia's face, which was already dark to begin with, darkened. For a long time, Shinjilia had always given people the impression of a warm spring breeze. He was an outstanding man who relied on his own strength to sit in this position at such a young age. Shinjilia was not only capable, but he also had an enviable temper. Everyone there was the same. They had never seen Shinjilia with such an expression. What business is it of yours? Shinjilia looked at Fong Tong Tong coldly. I know how my own woman treats me. There was not the slightest warmth in his gaze. Fong Tong Tong was a little frightened by Shinjilia's behavior. She mumbled, How can it have nothing to do with me? Enchanting is my best friend. She can slap you indiscriminately now, but what about next time? Have you thought about what will happen next time? Enchanting has always been this unruly and willful. She doesn't care about other people's feelings at all. You heard what she said just now. It's obvious that she misunderstood us, but she didn't even listen to our explanation. Aren't you angry at all? Enchanting looked at Shinjilia. Fong Tong Tong. Shinjilia interrupted her and said coldly, You claim that Enchanting is your bestie, but based on what I know, a bestie is equivalent to a brother in a man's circle. When Fong Tong Tong heard that, she didn't know what he was trying to say. She looked at Shinjilia and didn't know what to do. To be honest, if my brother talked bad about me in front of my girlfriend like this, I wouldn't hesitate to break up with him. Fong Tong Tong was shocked and tried to defend herself. But I'm telling the truth. The truth? Shinjilia's expression darkened even further. Enchanting treats you with all her heart. What about you? You're telling her boyfriend the truth? Old Shin. I'm doing this for your own good. Fong Tong Tong's voice sounded much weaker than before. That's enough. Shinjilia smiled, but there was an indescribable sarcasm in his smile. It's all my fault. Shinjilia. Fong Tong Tong was at a loss. You should leave. I don't think there's anything left to say between us. Shinjilia looked away and looked at the wound that he had just bandaged. I don't think Qian needs a bestie like you anymore. Fong Tong Tong subconsciously recalled Yi Qian's near breakdown state earlier. At the same time, she also recalled what Yi Qian had said to her the night before. Best friend. The hospital's underground parking lot was huge. It was so huge that it took Yi Qian more than 10 minutes to walk out of the hospital. The people who came and went seemed to have witnessed the farce just now, and there might be people who recognized her, so they took a few more glances at her. The sun was scorching, and Yi Qian's entire body trembled unconsciously. Even her eyes felt like they were being ironed. Layers of scorching heat rose up, stirring up a dense mist. Yi Qian's vision was blurry. She lowered her head and walked aimlessly like a loser. Yi Qian would never have imagined that her best friend and her boyfriend would end up together. Chapter 1764. Yi Qian walked to the side of the road in a daze and looked for a taxi. When she got in the taxi, the driver glanced at her and asked, Where to? To where? Yi Qian didn't know either. Go home? No, she didn't want to go home. When she thought about how Fong Tong Tong had intruded into the happy nest she thought she had with Shinjilia, she couldn't help but feel disgusted. Her best friend had become a mistress. How could she encounter such a melodramatic thing? Yi Qian's lips twitched and she asked, Do you know any fun places around here? It's not a stupid place to go alone. The driver could tell that Yi Qian was in a bad mood and asked, Are you in a bad mood? Did you quarrel with your boyfriend? We broke up. Of course I have to eat alone when I'm heartbroken. Have you eaten? No. Enchanting pursed her lips and touched her stomach. I'm really hungry. Do you know where to go now? I don't know. Enchanting pursed her lips, and she couldn't hold back her tears. That B***starred usually cooks. The driver was speechless. When he saw her like this, he sighed and said, I'll take you to a good place. My wife likes to eat desserts there. I heard it's delicious there. Yeah. Enchanting nodded with tears in her eyes. Thank you, sir. The driver looked at her sympathetically through the rearview mirror and quickly started the car. The driver sent Enchanting to a famous high-end shopping mall in the city. Enchanting followed the driver's instructions and walked over. There was a dessert shop at the bottom of the shopping mall. The decoration looked very elegant. After Enchanting walked in, she randomly ordered a few desserts. Looking around, she saw that the people around her were either couples or families. Enchanting sat alone on a chair and looked at the empty seat across from her. She felt stupid. Her red eyes were burning, and she couldn't hold back her tears. The restaurant was very quiet. Enchanting lowered her head and covered her mouth. She leaned against the table, and her shoulders trembled slightly. She bit her lower lip hard to prevent herself from crying. No one noticed her. When the waitress served the dessert, she noticed Enchanting's trembling shoulders and thoughtfully placed the dish on the table. She gently knocked on the table and softly said, Eat it while it's hot. It won't taste as good when it's cold. Enchanting raised her head slightly and glanced at the exquisite dishes in front of her. She sniffed and reached out to pull them over. Thank you. His voice was low and choked with sobs. The waiter smiled and quickly left. But when he returned, he was holding a small toy in his hand. It was a small doll in the classic Super Mario style, small and cute. The waiter pressed a button, and then the Super Mario ringtone sounded. It was cute and funny. With tears in her eyes, Enchanting raised her head and glanced at the waitress. The waiter's eyes curved slightly as he said, It's for you. Thank you. Enchanting pressed the button a few times. The ringtone sounded again and again. It was very cute. After Enchanting finished her meal, the waiter even gave her a discount when she paid the bill. Enchanting found it a little amusing. She didn't know that she could get such an advantage by eating alone. Walking out of the mall, the sun was even brighter. Chapter 1765. Enchanting looked up and saw the five-star hotel directly across the street. Next to the hotel was a KTV. Enchanting booked a room and ordered 24 beers. The reason was that the most cost-effective drink here was beer. Buy 12, get 12 free. Enchanting asked for the smallest private room in the most remote corner of the room and chose all the songs on the charts. Enchanting leaped onto the table and howled, I'm dead. Love them all. The waiter stood at the door and frowned as he listened. That was King awful. At first, the waiters would come and take a few glances, but in the end, they couldn't stand it anymore and no one approached. Enchanting downed bottle after bottle. When it came to beer, Enchanting never restrained herself. In the past, Enchanting would drink a cup or two if she had nothing to do. However, ever since she started dating Shinjilia, Enchanting had stopped drinking. First, it was because Shinjilia didn't like it. Second, it was because Shinjilia refused to buy it. This time, he had to drink to his heart's content. Enchanting gulped down a few bottles. Suddenly, a familiar melody filled the air. She used to like a song very much, Fanweichi's, one like summer, one like autumn. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't believe it. A friend is more devoted than a lover. Even if I'm too busy dating to freeze you. You don't hate me. You just yell at me. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be sure. A friend listens better than a lover. My unspoken words. My thoughtless words. I can't leave, darling. And I can't leave you. Enchanting screamed out the lyrics in tears and threw the microphone away in the end. Go to hell with your bestie. Enchanting screamed. Tears streamed down her cheeks. He sat down and opened a few more bottles. from 11 o'clock in the morning until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Enchanting had already drunk more than a dozen bottles. She was lying on the sofa, groggy and half dead. Burp! Enchanting burped, stood up, and stumbled into the bathroom. After the water was drained, the loud music in the room was still playing. She was the only one in the small room, and the floor was littered with wine bottles. Enchanting leaned back on the sofa, her whole body sprawled out. Ah! Ah! Enchanting was lying down when she suddenly rummaged through her bag. He took out the phone that had been switched off for a long time and turned it on. The words on the phone were no longer clear. Enchanting couldn't even tell whether it was one word or two. After staring at the screen for a long time, she finally saw that Shinjilia had made more than 20 calls. There were more than 40 missed calls. Shinjilia, Fong Tong Tong, you Lily, you. There were quite a lot of people. There were also hundreds of WeChat messages and a series of messages bombarding him. Enchanting chuckled. She opened the keyboard and dialed a string of numbers that she had memorized by heart. However, when she dialed the number, it turned into 3 words. Shinjilia. It was as if the person on the other end of the line had been waiting for her call. As soon as the call connected, Shinjilia immediately picked it up. Hello? Burp. Enchanting snorted and didn't say a word. When Shinjilia heard the voice, he was delighted. Chanshan, is that you? Where are you? Jilia? It's me. Are you drunk? I'll pick you up now. Chapter 1766. Enchanting wasn't at home. After Shinjilia bandaged his wound, he went to all the places that Enchanting might have gone to. Among them were Enchanting's company, Yi Yu's home, Yu Lily's home, and the places that they often ate at. However, there were none of them. Only God knew that Shinjilia was about to go crazy. He finally received a call from Enchanting. When Shinjilia heard Enchanting's drunken voice, the weight in his heart didn't drop. Instead, it was suddenly lifted, and his nerves were stretched to the extreme. Shinjilia's anxious voice came through the phone. In a daze, Enchanting felt waves of grievance engulf her. The anger that had been suppressed in her heart for a long time surged out. Enchanting burst into tears. She didn't even try to hide her sobs. The earth-shattering cries were transmitted through the KTV microphone to the entire room, echoing incessantly. The waiter heard the commotion and quickly came over to take a look. There were many bottles of alcohol in front of Enchanting. She was lying unsteadily on the sofa. Shinjilia, you be *****. Shinjilia felt that something was wrong. He asked, Where are you? I'll go find you. Don't scare me, Chanshan. Things are not what you think they are. *****CKU. Enchanting cried and screamed. She rubbed her eyes hard. I must have been blind to have fallen for someone like you. You be *****, you be *****. You could have slept with anyone. Sob. You just had to sleep with that be *****. Fong Tong Tong. She's my bestie. Burp. Enchanting burped. She was about to speak again, but she suddenly couldn't breathe. Her entire face turned red, and she vomited toward the edge of the sofa. Blarg. The microphone was so close that the sound could be heard throughout the entire room. When Shinjilia heard the sound, he naturally knew what was going on. He ran toward the door and shouted, Enchanting, how much did you drink? Where are you at the bar? Or the restaurant? The only response he got was the sound of vomiting. Shinjilia scratched his ears and cheeks. When the sound of vomiting stopped, he asked, Chanshan. However, the other side had already quietened down, and there was no longer any sound. Shinjilia didn't dare to hang up the phone. He walked on the road, but there was nothing he could do. Where the hell is she? Where could she be? Shinjilia had no clue what to do. All he could do was call out her name over and over again as he waited for her response. Enchanting didn't say another word. It was as if she had fallen asleep. Silence. It was eerily quiet. Shinjilia could feel the pain radiating from his hand. As he looked at the wound, Shinjilia couldn't help but recall what Fong Tongtong had said in the ward. Yi Chanqian has never thought about marrying you. Do you think she'll grow old with you? Don't be naive. This is just your wishful thinking. This sentence was like a magic sound lingering in his ears, lingering in his mind. Just wishful thinking? Yi Chanqian had always made it very clear that she didn't want to get married for the time being. Chapter 1767. Under such circumstances, Shinjilia couldn't be sure how much of what he said was true and how much was false. Perhaps Yi Chanqian only wanted to test his loyalty to her under those circumstances, or perhaps Yi Chanqian was serious. However, there was no doubt that even if Yi Chanqian had such intentions, it had been completely erased by his adultery with Fong Tongtong. Shinjilia sat on the sofa in frustration. He scratched his head as he listened to the silence on the other end of the phone. Even if he really had a chance, he had already dug his own grave. This feeling was even more unbearable than not having one in the first place. Defeat. Many things in Shinjilia's life had been smooth sailing. He had always prided himself on his intelligence. This was the first time he had encountered such an embarrassing situation. Shinjilia closed his eyes. After some time, Yi Chanqian's voice suddenly came from the other end. Shinjilia. Shinjilia perked up and immediately sat up straight. I'm here. However, the voice on the other end seemed to be just sleep-talking. Very soon there was no sound. Shinjilia. The voice was extremely soft and soft. Shinjilia quietly listened to the movements on the other end and said softly, Chanqian, tell me where you are. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Yi Chanqian heard a low intake of breath on the other end. She sounded extremely aggrieved, but she didn't cry out. Chanqian. Yi Chanqian's stomach was full of water. It didn't take long for her to want to use the toilet. She subconsciously sniffled and got up. Vaguely, she seemed to hear Shinjilia's voice. However, after looking around, she couldn't find anything. Yi Chanqian didn't care. She stumbled into the bathroom in the private room. After turning on the water, she felt extremely thirsty. When she walked out, she saw a bottle of beer and opened it. Yi Chanqian tilted her head back and took a big gulp. She gulped down half a bottle in one go. Yi Chanqian wiped her mouth and looked up at the screen. The song was still playing, but Yi Chanqian had turned off the volume. Yi Chanqian pressed the button to play the song again. Shinjilia immediately heard the exaggerated and terrifying music. Caught off guard, Shinjilia jumped in fright. He looked at his cell phone and confirmed that he was indeed on the line with Yi Chanqian. Yi Chanqian hollered into the microphone. Of course it's my fault. Why did you suddenly leave and leave me behind? Why did you see through it so quickly? Why did you leave me behind? A drunken voice with a lisp. There were even some parts that were read out directly, and the tone couldn't even keep up. Shinjilia was speechless. KTV. Drinking in a KTV? Shinjilia immediately got up, opened the door, and walked out. Yi Chanqian finished all the beer, and her face was shockingly hot. Her head was dizzy. She grabbed her bag and stumbled out. I'm home. I'm home. I'm home. Yi Chanqian muttered under her breath. She pressed the button for the elevator and went downstairs. He looked around. A drunken woman like Yi Chanqian was very eye-catching. His whole body reeked of beer as he stumbled along with a bag. What Yi Chanqian had always wanted to do, but was reluctant to do, was to splurge on a night at a 5-star hotel. As the saying goes, drinking boosts courage. Chapter 1768. The waitress had been watching Yi Chanqian for a long time. When she saw Yi Chanqian drinking alone, she couldn't stand it anymore. When she came back from the bathroom, she was gone. At first, she thought that the woman had gone to the bathroom. But after going back and forth 3 times, she was nowhere to be found. In the end, the waiter still walked in. But as soon as he entered, he smelled an extremely unpleasant smell of alcohol, as well as the nauseating stench of vomit. She pinched her nose and looked around again. Then, she saw a cell phone on the sofa. The cell phone was a beautiful rose gold color. She picked it up and saw a call page on it. The call had been connected for nearly 2 hours. The waiter clicked his tongue when he saw that the phone was indeed clean. He then turned off the music, picked up the phone, and put it to his ear. Hello. Shinjilia was blindly searching the KTV near his home. He kept an eye on the cell phone for any signs of activity. The sudden sound of a man's voice made Shinjilia's entire body tense up. Almost reflexively, Shinjilia's eyes narrowed and he asked, "Who are you?" When the waitress heard the voice, she knew that the caller was not friendly. She coughed lightly and said, "Hello. Who is the owner of this cell phone to you?" "She's my woman." "Where is she?" "This lady is drunk. She should have left by now. But her cell phone is still in the private room." "She left? Where did she go?" Shinjilia's heart was in his throat. "How could you do this? You didn't even look after the client. How could you let a drunk woman leave?" We can't control the client's freedom to come and go, but she should have just left. She shouldn't have gone far." "Where is your place? Give me the address immediately. I'll be there right now." The waitress gave the address and left the cell phone at the front desk. Shinjilia hailed a cab and realized that the place was very far away. It was more than 30 kilometers away from their home. It took Shinjilia almost an hour to reach the place. The cell phone was found, but where was the person? Yi Qianqian's head fell onto the bed and she fell into a deep sleep. When he woke up, his head was so dizzy that it felt like it was going to explode. Frowning, he had unknowingly sweated all over. When he got up, he remembered that he had fallen asleep in the hotel. After fanning herself, she realized that she hadn't even plugged in the key card to get the electricity. Yi Qianqian inserted the key card and turned on the air conditioner. Her body was burning hot. Looking left and right, she was surprised to see the hotel's name on the left and right. The 5 stars on the signboard displayed the nobility of the place she was currently lying on. Yi Qianqian suddenly felt a pang in her heart. She began to feel the pinch of her money. The saying that drinking boosted one's courage was indeed correct. Under normal circumstances, Yi Qianqian would never have come to a 5-star hotel. First, it was expensive. Second, it was expensive. Third, it was expensive. I was actually so impulsive. I miscalculated. Yi Qianqian's heart ached as she searched for her cell phone. She wanted to see what time it was, but she couldn't find her cell phone anywhere. Damn it! Yi Qianqian knocked her head. She was so annoyed that she had nothing to say. Even his phone was gone. Who could compare to such bad luck? Chapter 1769. Hello, front desk. Hello, what time is it now? Yi Qianqian's voice was filled with annoyance. The receptionist was stunned when she heard that. She looked at the time and said, "Hello, madam. It's 1:32 in the morning now. How may I help you?" "Well, do you have hangover tea? Get me something to eat while you're at it." "Yes, madam. I'll arrange for a specialist to take your order. Please wait a moment." "Okay, thank you." Yi Qianqian hung up the phone and lay on the bed like a corpse. Her head was throbbing. She seemed to have downed 24 bottles of wine on her own. There were exactly 24 bottles. This was the first time Yi Qianqian had drunk so much wine, and she had done it alone. Other than going up and down to the toilet and vomiting a few times, there didn't seem to be much of a difference. Yi Qianqian suddenly admired herself. She had gone to a place like a KTV alone and drowned her sorrows in alcohol like a fool. However, it turned out that it didn't work at all. Not only did it not drown her sorrows, but it also caused her to have a hangover. After a while, the waiter came to take their order. After Yi Qianqian ate and drank the hangover soup, she felt much better. After taking a shower, Yi Qianqian slept all the way until dawn. When she woke up, the sky was already bright. Yi Qianqian looked out the window and saw that the sky was already bright. Suddenly, she rolled out of bed like a carp. "I'm doomed. I'm doomed." She still had to go to work today. Yi Qianqian immediately rushed to the bathroom. After washing up, she picked up her bag and went downstairs to check out of the room. When she checked out, Yi Qianqian's eyes immediately fell on the big clocks behind the cashier's counter. "I'm doomed." It's already 8:30. Yi Qianqian paid the bill. She wanted to cry but had no tears. She rushed out to hail a cab. It was reported that this place was a full 30 kilometers away from the headquarters of Eurasian Comics. In other words, it seemed that she was going to be late no matter what. Yi Qianqian hugged her bag and panicked in the car. Leaders always had the ability to do everything well when things were good. However, when you were late, no matter how good they were to you, they would always have a million ways to scold you. Less than 5 minutes after Yi Qianqian got into the car, the situation dissipated significantly. Now that she was free, Yi Qianqian didn't even have a cell phone. It would take her at least 40 minutes to get to the office from there. She didn't have anything to kill her time with, so her brain started to churn. The emotions that she had been able to toss to the back of her mind since yesterday suddenly surged up and mixed up all of her thoughts. It was difficult to ignore them now. Yi Qianqian's breathing quickened. She twisted the strap of her backpack and stared at her fingernails without blinking. Due to the traffic jam, it was already 9:20 p.m. when Yi Qianqian arrived at the office. 20 minutes late. Yi Qianqian was no longer flustered. $100 would be deducted if she was half an hour late, and $100 would still be deducted if she was 20 minutes late. It was better to slow down and not waste her time. What Yi Qianqian didn't expect was to see a familiar figure standing at the entrance of the company when she reached it. It's over. Chapter 1770. Yi Qianqian couldn't dodge in time and stopped in her tracks. Why would I see the chief editor here? Could it be that she had been late too many times recently, so this leader had come to the door to reprimand her? At the thought of that possibility, Yi Qianqian panicked even more. Yi Qianqian met the chief editor's gaze and smiled sheepishly. When the chief editor saw Yi Qianqian, she immediately stopped making the call and looked at Yi Qianqian with a dark expression. When Yi Qianqian saw the situation, she knew that things were not looking good. No matter what, he was still a leader. Yi Qianqian braced herself and walked up to him. Yi Qianqian. The chief editor gritted her teeth and looked at Yi Qianqian. You're finally here. Yi Qianqian shrunk her neck, pouted her lips, and shouted, Boss! As she screamed, Yi Qianqian lunged at the chief editor. The chief editor stepped back and said with a look of disgust, You reek of alcohol! Sob, sob, sob. Yi Qianqian howled half-truthfully. Big boss, I didn't mean to be late. I was heartbroken. Ow, ow, ow. I accidentally woke up late, so... The editor-in-chief's expression was even worse. He said, You want to die just because of a quarrel? You even lost your phone. You're really something. Yi Qianqian was taken aback. How did you know that I lost my cell phone? How could I not know? Your boyfriend was here just now. When he couldn't wait for you, I asked him to get something to eat before coming back. The chief editor snapped. It's all thanks to your boyfriend that everyone knows you're late. Even if I wanted to open the back door for you, I wouldn't be able to. Write a report before you get off work today, and the money will still be deducted. Yi Qianqian had a dumbfounded look on her face as she asked, Did old Shun come by? You've been here for a long time. You even stopped me on my way to work and asked me if I knew where you were. How the hell would I know where you were? The chief editor's face was full of envy and jealousy. She pointed behind Yi Qianqian and said, Look, you're here. Yi Qianqian's body stiffened and she turned her head to look. Shenjilia's hand was bandaged and hung from his neck. With a single look, one could tell that the thick bandage was not to be underestimated. When he saw Yi Qianqian, he immediately straightened up and ran toward her. When Yi Qianqian saw him, she grabbed her bag and ran to the office. Shenjilia saw her from afar and shouted, Yi Qianqian, let's go. I don't want to see him. Yi Qianqian tugged at her editor. The chief editor was caught off guard and asked, What's wrong with him? Yi Qianqian's voice faltered. She didn't know where to start. Yi Qianqian was the queen of performance in the company. She couldn't possibly tell them that she, Yi Qianqian, had been successful in her career, but her best friend had stolen her man in the field of love. In any case, I don't want to see him. We've already broken up. I don't care what you guys did, but looking at your boyfriend's attitude, If you don't clear things up with him today, he won't leave. You'd better settle this quickly and come back to work as soon as possible. You have so many things to do, and you still have the nerve to ask for leave yesterday. The chief editor pulled her hand back and gave Yi Qianqian a push before quickly walking into the office. When she turned around, Xinjilie was already right in front of her. Xinjilie grabbed Yi Qianqian's hand. Panting, he called out, "Qianqian." Chapter 1771. The emotions that she had suppressed with much difficulty were stirred up again. Yi Qianqian raised her head to take a look. Xinjilie's face was a little pale. There were dark circles under his eyes, and there was a thin layer of stubble on the side of his mouth. His originally bright and clean face seemed to have aged quite a bit in the few days that they had not seen each other. Yi Qianqian pursed her lips. She felt terrible. Everything had changed in the few days that they had not seen each other. How much could a person's heart contain? She had never known that the man that she had always trusted and relied on could coax her into submission and seduce her best friend at the same time. What Yi Qianqian had never expected was that Xinjilie could still shamelessly come up to her even after she had already seen through him. Yi Qianqian laughed coldly. She waved her hand impatiently and shouted, "Are you done yet? I already said that we broke up." "Qianqian, listen to my explanation. It's true. Fong Tongtong and I are not in the kind of relationship that you think we are. The reason why she came to the hospital to see me was because I didn't want you to worry. Didn't I tell you a few days ago that I have a female patient who was a mistress? She even aborted her child, so she has some mental problems." Yi Qianqian listened to Xinjilie's words with a cold expression. She did not speak, but there was not much of an expression on her face either. Xinjilie looked at Yi Qianqian. His grip on her hand tightened as he said, "That night, I was working overtime and accidentally touched upon her mental barrier. She wanted to harm herself, but I was stopped by me. She hurt me instead." As he spoke, Xinjilie pointed to his arm, which was tightly bandaged. "Look, this is the evidence. My hand received 12 stitches, and my major blood vessels were injured. After a blood transfusion, I needed to be hospitalized. But I didn't want you to worry, so I told you that I had returned to the capital. I didn't expect that Fong Tongtong would suddenly call Gu Yuanxing." The sneer on Yi Qianqian's face widened. She tried to retract her hand, but it was gripped tightly by Xinjilie's grip. "Gu Yuanxing is a colleague that I wanted to introduce to Fong Tongtong. Didn't I give her a name card?" At that time, Gu Yuanxing told her. "When she said that she wanted to come and take care of me, I rejected her. But she said that she wanted to tell you. I was afraid that if you found out that I was lying to you, you'd be unhappy, so—" "Are you done?" Yi Qianqian's voice was cold, and her face was expressionless. She looked at Xinjilie, who was holding her hand, and asked, "Are you embarrassed?" When Xinjilie saw her expression, he knew that Yi Qianqian didn't believe him. His heart was burning with anxiety as he shouted, "What I said is true, Qianqian. Oh, then can you let go of me now?" When Yi Qianqian said that, her heart felt like it was being pricked by needles. She looked at Xinjilie with a look of mockery in her eyes. "I've heard your explanation. You can leave now. I have to go back to work. I'm very busy." Xinjilie looked at Yi Qianqian. "Yi Qianqian." Xinjilie's eyes were red. "What do I have to do for you to believe me? I really didn't have anything going on with Fong Tongtong. If there really was anything going on between me and Fong Tongtong, I'll be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." "Fine, I believe you. Let go of me. I'm going to work." Yi Qianqian. Chapter 1772. Xinjilie took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. He said, "Since you haven't eaten yet, let's go eat together. I'll show you the evidence." "There's more evidence?" Yi Qianqian raised her eyebrows slightly. "You're well prepared." Xinjilie was furious, but he couldn't get angry at that moment. He held Yi Qianqian's hand firmly. "Let's go. What do you want to eat?" "Let's eat something fast. I took a day off yesterday to catch an adulterer. Now that I'm done, I have to come back to work. Otherwise, my boss will be angry." Yi Qianqian shrugged helplessly. Catching an adulterer? Shinjilie was even more furious. He unconsciously tightened his grip on her hand. Yi Qianqian felt pain from his grip, but she frowned and didn't say anything. Shinjilie dragged her to a nearby breakfast shop. It was fast, but Yi Qianqian didn't like it. She wasn't usually picky about food, but she didn't like rice noodle rolls. This shop served rice noodle rolls and porridge together. Yi Qianqian hesitated when she saw the shop, but she still walked in. Shinjilie ordered. Both sets were Yi Qianqian's favorite flavors. After ordering, they found a place to sit down. Shinjilie looked at Yi Qianqian and said, "If you don't believe me, why can't you suspect your best friend? She was the one who insisted on taking care of me. Couldn't stop her. If I gave her a hard time, she would threaten me. The fact that you were threatened means that you have something on you. You must have done something wrong, right?" Bullsh *T. Shinjilie panicked. "You're my weakness. You're my weakness. The worst thing I've ever done is that I didn't dare tell you when someone stabbed me. I even told you that I went to the capital. God knows how I managed to survive these past few days. I've always been worried that the woman with the surname Fong would betray me. If you found out that I was lying to you, I'd definitely die a horrible death." As Shinjilie spoke, he didn't forget to look at Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian didn't seem to have much of an expression on her face. She stared intently at the wooden table in the shop. Shinjilie sighed and said, "It's all good now. I don't have to worry about being betrayed anymore. The current situation is even worse than being betrayed by her." "Did she say something to you?" Based on Yi Qianqian's personality, it was difficult to change her mind once she set her mind on something. However, it wasn't easy for Yi Qianqian to set her mind on something. When Yi Qianqian heard Shinjilie's question, the corners of her mouth twitched, but she didn't say a word. In Shinjilie's eyes, such a small expression was tantamount to a direct admission. "Qianqian, we've been together for so many days. You've felt how I've treated you. You should know better than anyone else what kind of person I am. You can't just give me a death sentence based on one side of the story from someone else. Hello, here is your meal." "Thank you," Yi Qianqian said and pulled the food in front of her. Shinjilie's eyes were fixed on Yi Qianqian. He was extremely serious as he said, "You're being unfair to me. Tong Tong likes you." Yi Qianqian suddenly said, "She likes you very much." "So what?" Shinjilie retorted reflexively, but he soon had a bad feeling. He narrowed his eyes and said dangerously, "Don't tell me. You're thinking of giving up your boyfriend to her? You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."